Night Owls.
Turn on Night Owls.
feel like I'm glued to the spot. Alan, can we not play?
Just heard a little click from up above. I don't know what that was.
No! Someone grab my leg! Someone grab my leg!
Hi, everybody. Hope you have had a wicked day so far. Ignore the news. There's a certain C word that shall remain not on this show in any place because we don't want anything to do with it. Not tonight. Probably not ever. But tonight, it's the H word. It's Halloween. My name's Alan Robson. Thanks for joining me. Traditionally, when I had a proper job on the wireless, we'd be out somewhere dark. Well, we're taking you to a few dark places a little bit later on. And we're going to be celebrating Halloween the way that we do best. We would have loved to have taken a whole host of you with us. We wanted to do Grizzly trails with busloads of night owls. It seems that this year has stolen that, along with so much more, from people. However, what is Halloween then? What's Halloween all about? Well, I can tell you that it is the time, if you go back into history, some people say only 2,000 years. Realistically, it's closer to 5,000 years. That's 3,000 years earlier than when the Christians claimed their Messiah came to earth. Incidentally, remember that Jesus was the 9th Messiah that the Christians, well, they weren't Christians. They were messianic tribes, but there was 9 before Jesus took off and did his thing. Whether he was real, whether he wasn't, that's up to you. You believe what you wish. But let me tell you what happened 5,000 years ago right here across the glory that is the north of England. Well, first of all, you would celebrate the end of autumn and the fact that you could bring the crops in, gather your fruit, your vegetables, the fish from the sea, the seaweed, the seafood. Seafood was massive back in the days. And if you hear about any of the old, even prehistoric peoples that lived here, and you find a midden, a netty, a toilet of theirs, you'll find it loaded full of seashells, scallop shells, clam shells, oysters, seafood, always a big deal. So how did Halloween come about? Well, the Celts back in the day would celebrate. Now, the Christians write it, that the Celts, human sacrifice, and they were wicked, and they didn't believe in God, and they were having orgies up and down hillsides. They wish. However, the Celts actually just celebrated the fact that the harvesting of all the crops was finally over and they could settle down for the really cold weather and eat the fruits or the vegetables of their labor. Simple as. Sounds fairly straightforward. And over the years, they would do things like they would pay respect, not worship, pay respect to their ancestors, the people that had gone before. And one of the ways they did that was to carve fruit, turnips, pumpkins, and other large fruit into kind of skull shapes, faces of their ancestors. Later on, the Christians said, oh, they carved these weird, horrible things to scare evil spirits away. Well, no. The Celts back in the day and the primitives from the north, they actually wanted their ancestors around them. They wanted to feel the love of those people that had gone before. And if you've lost a parent or a grandparent or a, heaven forbid, a sibling or a child, you want their spirit with you wherever you go. And you want that there all the time. Tomorrow night, we're going to be on the radio on Greatest Hits. And we're doing a ghosty special then, where we're going to play you some of the audio clips that are strong evidence that there is more than our existence on this planet. And you can judge them tomorrow for yourself. But tonight we wanted to do something rather than nothing. So here I am in the Robson bedroom. I made a bit of a mess of the bed, but anyway, here we are, and we're going to be talking to you. So if you want to give us a call, we'll get you through to Chris, who is locked in a tomb somewhere else. And Hollywood McShane is driving this from somewhere else. And hopefully it can all come together and actually work out. We're starting, though, with a video call where we find Lynn, who is from North Shields. Let's get her on board. Hello, Lynn.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, Alan. Good to talk to you. What's your story? You got anything ghosty for us?
Well, very much so.
Right.
This is about 6 years ago, and it's all sort of true. I was living in this house in Whitley Bay, where strange things would happen when I went up to bed.
Right.
Basically, the house was just 5 years old, so it was a new house. But when I went up to bed at night, things would start downstairs to fly around. You would hear crash, bang, wallop, doors banging closed. It was just so somebody had broken in. So when I first heard it, I came downstairs and thought, oh, something bad's happened down here. Burglary. But when I came down, it was nothing. Everything was closed, locked. When I looked
So there was
around,
no sign of anything lying around that could have tumbled, like something fell off a wall or something?
No, nothing. Absolute nothing. So I thought, well, everything's fine. So I went back to bed. 10 minutes later, started again. So I thought, right, back downstairs. When I got halfway down the stairs, it stopped. So I thought, oh. Again, checked everything. Nothing moved. So I thought, right, okay. And this happened quite a lot over about 6 months and really for about 2 years. And I thought, well, right, okay. Other things would happen. And I know strange things like, you have tie backs on your curtains and they have like a little ring on the tie back.
Yes.
Well, one night I was sitting in the chair just reading the magazine and I heard it start to tap on the wall. And it got louder and louder and louder. And I thought, never heard that before. And I ignored it. And it just went on for about 20 minutes. And I thought, this is spooky. And it was things like that. But the real test, I think, where, start to believe, well, it's obviously a spirit, was a friend came over to visit me. And she said, mind if I pop upstairs to use your toilet? I said, no, not at all. So anyway, he came downstairs. He says, I didn't know you had somebody upstairs. He says, I wouldn't have come over. I said, oh, there's nobody upstairs. He says, well, there was somebody walked out of your bedroom, walked across the landing, and stood outside the door.
Oh.
I said, well, it can't be. There's nobody there. And I'm downstairs. He says, well, it was footsteps, and because there was a floorboard outside the bathroom that used to creak if you stand on it.
Yeah.
And it was creaking up and down, he said. And he says it was obviously somebody outside the door. I heard the footsteps. And I says, well, no, there's nobody there. And I didn't say anything to him, and I thought, oh, my God. But, it was a spirit.
Right. Did it just stop, or did it keep going? I mean, have you moved out of there now?
Yes, I've moved out of there now. But, odd things would happen, like I had a mirror on the wall, and when I come back one day, it had fallen off the wall and cracked in two.
Right.
And I thought, well, it's been put up properly, so that really shouldn't have happened.
Right.
And it was things like that, and it was other sorts of things where if you left the kitchen cupboard door open, something would drop out the cupboard.
Right.
Onto the floor, and if you were sitting at the table, it would stop at your feet.
Oh, my goodness. How come you didn't get somebody in to shift that thing?
Well, I didn't know what to do, because at the time I was living on my own, and I thought, well, you know, I wasn't frightened. I was at first, but when I got used to it, I thought, well, oh, you know, it's just a ghost, it's just a spirit.
Were you going through any personal trauma?
Because somebody had died, that I had sort of known 24 years in my life.
Right.
He died suddenly in 2010. I guessed that maybe it was him, it was the spirit, it's that person.
Right.
And I thought, well, he didn't harm me in life, so he's not going to harm me in death.
Mm-hmm.
And I just accepted it was a spirit, and I just lived with it. And to be honest, when I heard the crash bang wallop, you know, in future times, I just used to come down and say, oh, you know, you're here. Yes, I can hear you. And it didn't bother me.
Right.
But at first it was, you know, it was absolutely terrifying, because I thought somebody had broken into the house.
Sure.
But obviously it's, you know,
yeah.
It's some kind of spirit.
But when
so
you were going...
strange things happened
for
it just to be a one-off, you know. You would find, you would come in the lounge, and you would maybe find a white feather lying on the carpet, or a leaf or something, and you would think, that's strange. But, you know, I'm sure it was somebody that had passed over that was trying to make perhaps a connection.
Right. I mean, were you going through a really bad time?
It was quite sort of eerie at the time.
So were you going through a bad time then?
To say, I don't live there now, you know, so... But I often, when I pass this house in Whitley Bay, you know, and I pass it, I think, I wonder if it's still haunted.
Yeah, it's a good thing. So when you were going through this, were you in a particularly bad time in your life? Hello? My microphone seems to be off. So I hope you can hear me at home. I don't know whether Lynn is still there. I hope she is. Are you there, Lynn? Hello, are you still there, Lynn? Hello? Speaking, not getting anything. We have been captured by the ghosts. No, can't hear anything at all. But I hope you are still there. Don't know what it is, but we are having a problem or two. So please bear with us. We will get back to you as soon as we possibly can. I have no idea what is going on at the present moment, but hopefully we will get somebody to run down and save us very, very soon indeed. There seems to be no sound whatsoever that we are getting. But Lynn was there, an amazing story. And I'm being told that we are... Shout at me, what's the problem?
Rob is next on video.
I know that, but can he hear me? Because I can't hear a thing here. That's all. My apologies for that. Our sound dropped out. My picture has changed. And Lynn seems to have disappeared. But not to worry, because we've got Rob next, who I think is up there in Wickham. Hello, Rob.
Yes. Hello.
Oh, there you are. Thank heavens for that. I thought we'd gone. I thought the ghosts had stolen you all from me. Hiya, Rob. Now, I gather we know each other.
Yes, we've met a couple of times. Yes, yeah. Bose last year, Halloween.
No, welcome back onto the show. Thank you very much for coming. Bose, Halloween was quite something. So tell me your experiences of doing that and droning for us as well.
Yeah, I just did a little bit of the video stuff for the YouTube video that you did last year, which was good fun. It was my first time I'd been up to Bose, so it was interesting getting the thing to fly over, get some good video shots of it. But it was an interesting night, if I remember rightly.
No, it was. We seemed to pick up a lot of, and I think the thing that was most vivid was we managed to get some sound of what appeared to be a child cutting across. I wasn't aware of it when we were there, but other people said that they heard this thing. Well, how was it for you? Because you were kind of on the outside looking in, like the people were.
I was in the like that little staff room where just getting a drink, and one of the members of staff there was telling me about the shop, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, people always get like people have had things thrown at them in that part of the building, and then when you came back in afterwards, and you said you'd just been in there and things had happened and you'd heard things. As soon as you said straight away where it was the same
Kind of made
part
sense.
of the site. Yeah,
That made sense. So what's the most vivid? What's the most vivid thing that you've ever seen then, Rob?
I mean, I love going on places like this and going into places. There's the two that really stand out for me. The Castle Keep must have been about 8 or 9 years ago. Just in the main hall of the Castle Keep, and as you know, it's in the city centre, so you get all the street lights. The orange glow comes through the windows at the top, and it sort of casts a glow onto the wall in the gallery. And then there was about 3 of us in the building, and we saw a shadow walk through the first part of the light, and that sort of got everyone to look up at the wall. So by now everyone's looking at this wall, and there's another bit of light from the next window along, and then the same shadow went straight through that as well. So there was a figure definitely up there, and there was nobody up. Everyone was accounted for. So the first thing we all did, everyone ran up the little spirally staircase to get up to the top, because that's where people say that they feel things pushing them. And there was nobody up there, and that's a window that's quite high off the ground, so nobody on the outside of the building. And for me, that was the first time I ever really saw anything.
First time you realized that there was a bit more. It's interesting, though, because if you look at what's happened over the last 20 to 30 years since we started doing ghostly investigations of any kind, at first, people would, at the hint of a ghost, would be running in the opposite direction. Now everybody seems to run towards it because they want to find out as much about it as they possibly can.
Yeah, it's. I think everyone just wants the proof. I think you're not going to go on a ghost hunt and then run away from it, because you might as well not go on it. It's but yeah, I think everyone just wants to see one, even if it's, as long as it's not in your own house or in your own bedroom or something. You want to see. If it's as long as it's in a castle somewhere, I'd love to see something face to face. That would be amazing. But it's
everybody's dream that's ever looked. And over the years, I've been 1,000 places, and I've only vividly seen probably 3-4 things that I could say wholeheartedly, I don't have another explanation for whatever that was. Anything else you want to say while you're on, Rob? Good to see you, man.
Probably the thing that got me interested in the whole thing in the first place was a story in the family. So it's on my dad's side of the family, going back during the Second World War. So in 1944, my grandfather was away fighting in the war, and the family butcher shop was being looked after by my grandmother in Sacriston in Durham, just on the high street there. And it was just one night. My grandmother, that's just a story I keep getting told. I used to always ask every time I went to see her. She was closing up the shop. She locked the shop up and went and sat in the back area of the shop. And I think she just picked up a newspaper, and she was just, I think, a bit tired. And then she became aware of a man standing there, not in a part of the shop that was, the public wouldn't go into. So she asked what he was doing, and he said, he just looked at her strange and said, "Where's Ronnie?" And Ronnie's my grandfather's name. And she said, "He's not here. You're not going to catch him. He's away in France fighting." And then the man just sort of walked out of the shop, which was all locked up and in darkness. So she went after him, and there was nobody there. There was nobody in the shop. It was completely empty. So she was, for a while, what I've had to seen in the building. There was no way you could have gone in or out because the building was locked up. And I'm sure you guess what's going to happen next. You got the news a couple of days later. He'd been killed during the D-Day landings.
Wow.
His job was, to go onto the beach. He was looking for landmines under the sand, and he had to defuse them, and made it up onto one of the villages on the cliffs in northern France. And then, bomb went off. The two next to him were killed instantly, and he died hours later in a field hospital. Wow. So the news got through. At the time, she didn't put two and two together. But then it was a while later, she'd been at a relative's house, and she'd wanted photographs of him for quite a while. So they were going through the old photos and finding things. And she saw a photograph of a man, and she recognized him straight away. And she was 100% sure that was the guy she saw that evening. And when she asked who he was, it was Ronnie's uncle. And he'd been dead since the early 1930s.
Wow. Right.
And he used to come because the shop was next. I think there was an old cinema on the high street in Sacriston.
Right.
He used to look after him all the time. He used to come out and take him out to the cinema and buy him ice cream and stuff. He'd always come in and say, where's Ronnie? And they'd go out. It was just, I don't know, it was always one of those stories that when I got told it, that was the one that got me really interested in the whole thing. And obviously that shop's, it's no longer there. It's a hairdresser's now, but yeah, it's a story that's been told through the family for 70 odd years. But yeah,
brilliant. But you see, it's I think every family has a story, and anybody listening can also contact us by Facebook or Twitter. Just get in touch. We'll get you on the show as well. But Rob, thank you very much. Great to see you again. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. Thanks, man. He came and he gave us that great drone footage that we had on the show last year. So this is the time when the ancients believe that the membrane, the grayness between the living and the dead come together. Will something happen in your house tonight? Well, it's a night of celebration for me as well, because I'm fortunate enough to say we got a new book out called Grizzly Tales of Northumbria, and it's with a company called Northern Heritage, who are looking after me big style. If you want a copy of it, we'll put a link on there for you so that you can give it a click and go to it. Also, we'll be doing that tomorrow night when we'll give you a chance to win a copy of that book. Every week, right the way between now and Christmas, we're going to be giving you a chance to not just win a Night Owl book, but also to get your hands on the Grizzly Tales of Northumbria. Northumbria is, of course, a massive patch. A lot of people think, oh, that must be Northumberland. No, not at all. Northumbria, the kingdom of Northumbria, a Celtic area of land, spread from up to Scotland. It went up as high as Edinburgh, and it went down slightly further than South Yorkshire. So it's a sizable patch. And if you've ever wondered what kind of stuff happened in that area in the past, and the best ghost stories and the best places to see living history and dying history too, it'll guide you on your way. So what we thought we would do for you is take you out to see the actual place where 3 of these stories happened, and then a little bit later, we're going into a cursed wood. Well, you just would, wouldn't you? So, there to come, we want you on the show. We've got Jason from New Biggin by the Sea, and he is up next. Don't know whether it's a video call or a callie call. Let's find out. I think it's a callie call. Hello, Jason. Hello, Jason. Jason is there somewhere. Hello, Jason.
Hello.
Oh, there he is. Hello, mate. What can we do for you tonight? What's your story?
Hello. Well, what it is I do a lot of investigations and stuff into the paranormal.
Okay.
I haven't caught anything yet as such. Well, to be honest, I've been on a gap from it because obviously I had kids 16 years ago when I used to do it. Right. And that kind of stopped us doing it. I've started to get back into it now. What was I going to say? Yeah, so I've been a few places. I've been to the Woodhorn graveyard in New Biggin.
Right.
Because everybody says that's supposed to be the most haunted graveyard in Northumberland, isn't it?
Some say, what have you seen there? Anything?
No, not yet. Maybe 16 years ago, I'm trying to find my old videotape with an old camcorder it wasn't really seeing anything. What it was I went there. I'd only lived in Northumberland for about 3 months.
Right.
And I went there with a couple of people in the camcorder. It would have been 2004, probably October 2004.
Right.
And there wasn't really anything on the video, but there was a noise of what sounded like a bike chain. Like if you had a loose chain on a bike and you went up a curb, the noise the chain would make.
Right.
Never really thought anything of it. When I went home and started like going on the internet and that, I came across a local person's website who actually mentioned a phantom cyclist who's supposed to go up and down Woodhorn Lane.
Yeah, right.
Now, I never seen anything, and it was only the noise of the chain that I ever heard. But ever since then, I've always been curious, and I always do go back hoping to catch something, but I've never seen anything there yet.
You know, when you were catching all of the camcorders, blimey, doesn't that sound ancient? Camcorder, hell, it spells. Everybody's just got a telephone now that does all the fancies. But when you were doing all that camcorder stuff, I presume you would then sit there and go through it kind of frame by frame to see if you could see anything there.
Yeah, I used to hook it up to the TV and watch it. It's quite funny because I was doing it tonight. I've managed to acquire some camcorders. Now I'm trying to find all my old videotapes. It's quite funny.
No, but it's wonderful. It's a time and place that you've captured, which is always good stuff. And usually, if you look back on them, you see a lot more. Because I don't know what it is. At the time, you're just excited to see yourself go, this is where I've been. When you look at them with fresh eyes, you never know. You might have something captured there. And if you do, come back to us, please. We'd love to see it.
Oh, yeah. It's the noise of the videos rewinding as well that you forget about. it's weird to hear the rewinding. But I've been out the past couple of nights. I went to Newcastle Blackgate and obviously around the Castle Keep as well, but there was nothing. Unfortunately, I was hoping to find something, but there was nothing.
No worries. But good thing is you're looking. Good to hear from you, man. Thanks for coming on. Good talking to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, man. All the best. Let's go to Sacriston. We got Kate there. Hi, Kate.
Hello.
Hello, Madalyn. What can we do for you tonight?
I've got a rather sinister ghost story, unfortunately.
Great.
Quite fitting for Halloween, but it happened to me a few years ago. I'd gone on holiday. Obviously, I was a bit younger then. I went on holiday with my mum and my stepdad, and we stayed in this tiny village up in the middle of nowhere in Scotland, just along from Wigton. We went for the Wigton Book Festival.
Right.
We stayed in a place where Michelle Collins had stayed very recently. She was filming a series there, and she stayed in a room. And apparently she'd experienced something very sinister there as well, but we didn't get much information out of that.
Right.
How it began, we'd stayed there a few nights and nothing really had happened. It was quite a gothic, gloomy place. You know, it was right on the seafront. There wasn't anything for miles around. We had a pub and about 5 houses, and that was it.
Right.
And this one night, I'd had a creepy nightmare where I'd seen a very tall, very blonde, bleach blonde man in a striped shirt shouting for Eddie. And I remember him going, Eddie, Eddie, very sing-song, you know, not something quite, not creepy, just sing-song.
Right.
So I woke up the next day and it was fine, you know, just a nightmare, just brushed it off and moved on.
Yeah.
The following night, I was staying in the attic room. It was an old converted attic, and I was staying up there in the room by myself. And it was getting quite late. Everyone else had gone to sleep, and I was staying up, and I was editing my book that I was writing at the time, which I was actually plugging a few years ago on this very show.
Hey.
And I was sitting up, and I was typing away, and I heard someone at the foot of my bed whistle a tune. And it was something that I could mimic. It couldn't have been the wind. It was an actual tune. I can't whistle, so I can't mimic it, but it was a tune. It was a song.
You could tell it was a musical thing, not just the eaves or whatever. Right.
Exactly. So I thought, oh, okay, that's a bit, I'm going to go to sleep now. So I put my iPad away and I very stupidly switched off the light and went to bed. Right. I did not sleep a wink for the next 8 hours. I just knew that there was someone standing by my bedside that entire night. And if I put my head out of the blanket, I knew that they would know I was awake. and this feeling of this intense feeling of terror was just overwhelming. I couldn't move. I could barely breathe. I was terrified. I was too scared to shout for my mum. I was terrified. And I woke up the next morning. Well, I woke up in inverted commas the next morning, and my stepdad had come up to see me. And I said, the first thing I said, didn't say good morning. I just said, I'm not sleeping in this room again. I'm sorry, I'm just not doing it. I refuse to sleep in this room again. So I told him the story, and that night he said, okay, you sleep downstairs with your mum and I'll sleep in the attic. I said, okay, fair enough. If you want to sleep in the creepy ghost room, you sleep in the creepy ghost room. I'm having none of it. I'm gone.
Right.
So he woke up the next morning, nothing to be worried about. Don't be silly. There's nothing there. Don't be stupid. It's nothing. I'm like, right, okay, it's our last night. I'll go back in the ghost room. If you insist, I'll sleep in the creepy ghost room. So my mum said, I'll come up there with you, because there was a separate bed. So she said, I'll sleep in there with you. So I took some earplugs up because she snores a little bit. So I was like, okay, I'll a bit tired. I'll go to Kip now. And she said, can I borrow your iPad so I can read? I said, yeah, of course. You do what you want to do. I'm just going to go to sleep. I think it must have been about half an hour, 45 minutes past. I was kind of on the edge of sleep at this point, and she shook me awake and she said, I'm going to go downstairs to my room. Do you want to come? I said, no, I'm fine. She says, are you sure? I'll make up the spare bed in the living room for you. I says, no, I'm fine. She said, are you positive? Are you absolutely sure? I says, yes, I'm fine. I've got my earplugs. I'll be fine. She went, okay, if you're sure. Went to sleep, didn't think anything of it. The next morning, she told me that she was trying to get me out of the room because she had seen a little boy dressed in a striped shirt with bright blonde hair standing.
Oh, hello.
And she didn't know how. I hadn't told her about the nightmare, by the way. I hadn't told her anything because it was just a nightmare. You don't say anything.
Right, sure.
She knew that this boy was called Eddie.
Oh.
It was terrifying. Absolutely. The most sinister and terrifying experience any of us. We've both had kind of similar experiences, but nothing as frightening as that. And a few months later, my stepdad, we were out at a Chinese, we were having a meal out, and my stepdad got a little bit tipsy, and he admitted he'd felt really uncomfortable in that room. He didn't see anything, but he felt something. He knew that there was some kind of presence in that room. And to this day, I still joke, you both let me sleep in the ghost room and didn't say anything. It was terrifying.
But that is still a paranormal hole in one if you think about it, because you didn't tell them about the blonde hair, you didn't tell them about the name, didn't tell them about the shirt, and yet 3 out of 3, that's beyond coincidence.
Absolutely. And we've tried to investigate and research, and we can't find anything about Port Logan. We just assume that maybe the striped shirt has something to do with maybe sailors, like olden days sailors, and maybe someone who drowned, maybe a son. I don't know. I have no idea. We couldn't find anything about Eddie or a drowned sailor or anything. But the fact that place, it was Byron-esque. It was so gothic and gorgeous and terrifying. But I never want to go back. People say, do you want to go back and investigate further? Absolutely not. No way.
Stripey garb is also prison wear,
That's true. It could have been a prison. I don't think there was a prison nearby. There might have been one at some point. I don't know. But honestly, it was just the fact that she saw him and I heard someone whistle. And this I still remember to this day hearing him in my dream shouting Eddie, as if he were playing hide and seek or something. It wasn't meant to be like a scary, like a father telling off his son or something. It was playful, but it was I'm getting shivers.
I always find it amazing though, just here's a woman in a strange room on her own, here's a dead person whistling. I think I'll go to sleep now. What?
Yes, I must have honestly thought, oh, there's nothing there. There was something there. It didn't help as well that it was mid-September in Scotland, which is notoriously stormy. On the seafront, it was raining. The rain was lashing the window. It was windy. It was blowing a hoolie outside. It was perfect Halloween conditions, but
brilliant,
utterly, utterly terrifying. Absolutely.
Fabulous. Kate, thank you very much. Thanks for calling in. Really appreciate it. Thank you, darling.
No worries. Take care.
Great story. How about that? You got a family tale. Have you been somewhere where something's happened? If you've got a story, drop us a message on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. We are kicking it out there and celebrating the Grizzly Tales of Northumbria. And we're going to be taking you to at least 3 of those places across tonight. But let's get some more calls in. We want as many of you as possible. And if you are prepared to be seen on video, if not, send us a strange emoji or get your makeup on or get the bands there and get family shots of your Halloween, which has been not exactly trick-or-treating anymore this year, but let's know what you've been up to. We'd love to hear about that. We've got some dark stories. We've also got some of other people's proof of spirit. See what you make of them. We've got a couple of corkers. We also have a blessing to give us better luck. I need it. A lot of us need it. So we will be sharing that with you. And I'll tell you what you need in advance. You need a candle, 1 candle. You need a dried leaf. Anything that's fallen off a tree, that it's everywhere. You need a little bit of soil, literally almost a bottle top full of soil, tiny little bit of soil. Then I want you to have a saucer, or it's going to be circular, not square, a circular bowl, a circular saucer, either or, with a tiny little bit of water in it, 1/2 inch of water in it. That's the stuff that you're going to need. And, of course, a match to light your candle in. I'll talk you through the blessing a little bit later, and hopefully we can all get a little bit of better luck than we've had. We're going to Blythe next on the Great Northern Seaboard, where we have Wallace, and I think it is a video call this time. Hello, Wallace.
Hello, Alan.
Hello to you. Well, thank you very much. That is a fine tribute, a ginger woman, just what we need. Thank you, Wallace.
You.
How long did it take you to grow yours?
I just cheated. I've got a wig on.
It looks like you've pinched it off your pumpkin. You've got an owl carved in it.
Orange.
Brilliant. Hey, well, thank you very much for coming on. What you got for us tonight?
Just, you're probably wondering why I'm dressed up as you. You may... I don't even know how to explain it. You may know from some of your other callers, such as Ross, that we have a Zoom quiz every Sunday, and I host it.
Oh, brilliant.
And traditionally, before COVID, I would host a quiz at my pub.
Right.
And because it's a Sunday night and it finishes around about 10 o'clock, we always watch your live broadcast afterwards, and it's just become a bit of a tradition. So brilliant. Just as a bit of a laugh, really, because I like to go all out for Halloween, I decided to dress up as you.
Oh, well, thank you. I wish I had a bit more of your hair in the front bit than I've got all mine at the back.
I went for a bit more vintage, Alan, no offense.
That's all right. That's all right. I look far more attractive at your side than I do at this one. But why are you interested in the paranormal then?
Not particularly. I would say that the only sort of paranormal experience I've had, which is a bit questionable, I once dreamt that I was in a hospital ward and there was an old gentleman sitting next to us, and he kept complaining that he had a headache, and that he started asking me loads of questions and like saying, oh, wait, I know who you are. Like, I know about your family and all that sort of thing.
Right.
And then it seemed to be very specific stuff. And I woke up next day and started talking to my family about all these specific things. And they were really confused as to how I knew them, because they were like, oh, well, the only person who would know all that type of stuff is your granddad. Now, my granddad on my dad's side died before I was born.
Wow.
So it was a really strange experience, the fact that I had all this information, and like I say, I'm a bit skeptical when it comes to like the paranormal, but I thought it was just a little bit of a strange coincidence that I knew stuff from like when like my dad was little and when they went on family holidays. It was just really strange.
You see, the interesting thing about that is, and what I always say is question everything and don't believe 95% of it, but look for that other 5% that you can't explain any other way. And it's only that 5% that really gets the hair standing up on the back of your neck, because you know You can't fake it.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell do you know that? What was it? It's that kind of thing. But could it possibly be, and because obviously we look for alternative answers too, and I know I'm shooting Halloween down by saying this, but could it not be that you, through your family, have a genetic code that's been passed to you by your parents, obviously, and they passed you some from your grandfather? Well, who's to say that on that genetic line somewhere memories could be stored? Because nobody's proven it, nor disproving it. It's just, how else would you have that information? Or, because you see, the believers in ghosts would say, oh, well, your grandfather obviously told you in the night while you were sleeping, or came to you. You know, maybe there are other things that could be. The cool thing is, we'll never really know one way or the other. That adds to the mystery of it all.
No, definitely not. And I think the strangest part of it was after all this information was told to me in my dream, he complained about having a serious headache and said, oh, well, I'm off now. It was really nice to meet you. And my granddad actually died of a brain tumor. So I don't know. It seems too coincidental, but you know, I've never really thought about it since. But
brilliant.
It's
a great story, all the time. What's the name of the pub?
Oliver's Pub in Blythe.
Brilliant. Hey, well, just great to meet me. You.
Yes, great to meet me. You.
Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Effort. I'm sorry. Next time I do any promotional photographs, can we take a picture of you?
Yeah, definitely.
That's lovely. Thanks a lot, Alan.
See you, Alan.
Wallace. Thanks, love. Bye-bye. How fantastic was she? My goodness, it was like whisking me back into the past. That was actually quite creepy in a strange kind of way. Going to have another phone call, getting ever nearer our first visit to one of our Grizzly places. We've had a few people also asking on email what exactly the book is. It's a mixture of some of the best stories, ghost stories that we've had, that we've visited, the places we've been, some of the classics from Grizzly Tales from back in the day, The Nightmare on Your Street, there's some of them. But this is the first time we've ever given you the full shilling about Chillingham, how we got involved with Chillingham in the beginning, and a lot of the adventures that we've had since. So worth getting your hands on. If you want to pick up something that will guide you around places where other people have seen spirit, and you can hear their words here as well, worth getting your hands on if you fancy. So there you go. Courtesy of Northern Heritage, who are publishing it. And it's out officially now. I think it was supposed to be a couple of days ago, but it's now because I got my hands on them. Hurrah! I'm going to be telling you the story of a cannibal from Seaham soon. But first, let's go and talk to Brian from Howden. Hello, Brian.
Hi, Alan. You all right?
I'm good, mate. What you got for us all?
Hi, Alan. Hello.
Hello, Brian. What's your story,
Hi,
mate?
Alan. You all right?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you.
The thing I wanted to ask you about, Alan, was I've been a long time listener, since I was a bairn. I'm 36 now.
Thank you.
And one of the presents I got when I was a young kid was about Nightmare on Your Street.
Right.
And there was a tale in there about a young girl who her and a dog were going for a walk and knocked some royal being off the horse, and she hung for it.
Yes.
Can you remember the story that was in the book?
I do, absolutely, of course.
Yeah, it was just to find out about that, because I mean, me and my father have this conversation all the time, and we could never get to the bottom of where it came from and stuff like that. It was just he's going to be made up that I'm talking to you now. I still remember the poem, Mary, Mary, how you swing on the hangman's rope, yet you sing your neck is full, your candles out. Yeah, you scream instead of shout. It's fantastic. It's stuck with us since I was a kid.
How
yeah,
you remember it better than I do. The thing that we
like
did.
I mean, at the time, I must have been about 8 or 9 at the time.
Yeah.
And it's just where did it come from and stuff like that. That's all I'm asking.
Well, what we did back then, because that was quite early into the stuff we've done, because we've ended up going all over the world doing weird and kind of freaky things. But back then, what we did was we asked listeners, is there a story from your neck of the woods? What is it? People would then send a story and say, oh, this woman was supposed to have done this there. Why don't you look into it? So then you look into it as best you can. If I got stuck, I would go back to the radio and say, look, there's a pub here, or there's a woman that was from this area. What do you know about it? And that story built up by people, because when I read the story out on air, at least the type or the part of the story that I'd been sent, because I wasn't sent the whole thing, then a woman rang in and said, oh, there's a skipping rhyme about her. And I'm going, a skipping rhyme? What was that? And that's the poem that you've just read. Little girls, apparently, back in the day, used to do their skippy while singing that song.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, Brian?
Yeah, well, no, that was it. That's great. It's fantastic. Is there any way I can pick that book up? Because, like I say, it's been years, obviously, since I've read it. I need to find it.
Well, the best stories from it are in the Grizzly, or the new one. So that's probably your best place to start. Nightmare. What I did with the first two, I let them go out of print so that we could put together a new fuller collection, and that's what this is. So it might be worth you having a look in there first. However, we must move on with Brian. Thank you very much for coming on. Great to hear from you, and love to your family as well. Thank you, man. Take it easy. Bye-bye. There you go. So, Brian from Howden doing that. I think it's time we did our first visit, and this is you. Oh, hang on. I've got another caller from Blythe. Let's do that, and then after Liam from Blythe, we'll go and visit a cannibal. Hello, Liam.
Hi, Alan.
Oh, look, very, very smart tonight, Liam. I have to say, you're putting me to shame, man. Look at that.
I don't know. I've been getting a bit of a jip for the tash, particularly from the girlfriend, but never mind. How are you, Alan?
Nothing wrong with the tash. What can we do for you?
Well, basically, first of all, the reason I'm dressed up like this is I've been doing a concert from the Tyne Theatre, in Newcastle, to raise money. It's called The Show Must Go On. To sort of get shows back on them, so that's why I'm dressed like this. But then I've come back to my girlfriend's house, which is where I'm at now. She's actually been taking part in Wallace's quiz.
Hey, great!
So and she's been Morticia, so I'm Gomez and good stuff. But yeah, I wanted to tell you a little story that me and my partner's actually shared in this house.
Right.
With a bit of a twist ending. Do you know about the Ring video doorbell? Where it senses motion in the back and outside and things like that. Well, we've got one on the front door, looking through the peephole, and we've got one in the back window looking out over the back garden.
Right.
And that one went off on her phone. She got a little notification on her phone. And she checked on the video, and there's nothing there. Didn't know what it was. Must have been a leaf or a cat or something. Until about a second later, you see in the bottom right hand of the screen, you see this little Victorian girl in like a Victorian white sort of bed linens, with the little bonnet hat and the frilly shoulders, on a little tricycle, just rolling down the side path on the way down to the door.
Right.
So we roundly use some blue language, panicking. I'll run to the French door, and I'm peering out looking for it. There's absolutely nothing there. She's going, "It's there! I can see it! I can see it!" And we were full to the wind panic.
I bet.
Now I got at basically I videoed her screen so I could send it to my sister, because she's had some experience at her house. They had orbs at the foot of their bed, and they actually took a photo when it was particularly bad, or good, whatever way you want to look at it, and caught clear as a bell with a full facial features and everything like that, a blonde girl standing at the bottom of the bed. So I thought, Ash needs to hear about this. So I sent her the video, and she is absolutely 100%. That is a little girl just cycling down your path. So here's where the twist ending comes in. I put it into my video editing software, which I use for the music and the theatre stuff, and slowed it right down, crispened the image up a little bit, zoomed right in. I was like, it's there. She's moving. You can see her head just turning towards the camera. It's some really like intense stuff.
Right.
Until I noticed this little mark that didn't quite look right and didn't quite fit. And then we realized that what had actually happened is through the slats of the window blinds, my partner Tam's feet on the puffy were crossed over. And she just sort of rolled her toes one next to the other, and it reflected into the window, set the Ring doorbell video off. It was her feet.
Wow. That's bizarre. How about so you're absolutely so convinced, and then
you know what it is? I was ready to. I was on Google looking for Yvette Fielding's phone number, and I was when's Derek O'Cora coming around? We were absolutely 100% sold. That was and I messaged my sister and I says, "This is what it is. It's our feet rubbing together in the window."
Right.
And to this day, this happened about 3 or 4 months ago. To this day, Ash, my sister, is still rubbish. It's a ghost. Right. That is absolutely a ghost. Right. You can see our dress floating and things, and it's honestly, we've never been more scared, excited, and confused all at the same time.
And probably totally deflated at the end, thinking, I thought we'd caught something there.
Wait. We were absolutely sure we were going to be some internet sensations or something like that.
The weird thing is about what you say, you know those doorbells that everybody seems to be buying now that have got the telephone notification. I think it's the same one that you've got. Everybody's getting them now. You can leave the parcel next to the bin. I'm actually in the bath. No, you're not. You lying so-and-so. However, I can't remember the guy's name, and I'm very sorry about that. But it's Sophie Ellis Bextor's road manager, the one that takes her around radio stations and TVs and that kind of thing. And he's been interested in the ghosty stuff purely because of one incident, and it was because before those gadgets, he had a CCTV camera put in on his front door because there'd been a group of kids trying to kick front doors in on his street in South London. So he put a CCTV camera in, and he said, "Alan, I want you to have a look at this." Now, the camera was high-quality stuff, full colour, and it was essentially his front door. You could see 2 steps down, a path, the end of his gate, a bit of a hedge, and the occasional head of somebody walking back and forth on the side of the hedge. However, he says, don't let it bore you. Wait for 17 seconds and then tell me what you see. So it's just an empty path, an empty front door. The hedge is moving and stuff, but you got to remember it's filming 24/7, the CCTV. So then 17 seconds in, something grey appears, and then a face in the grey looks up at the camera and then disappears. And he says, "What the is that?" And I didn't have an answer for him. I don't know how you would. You know how you can tell fakes on YouTube when you see these things?
Yeah,
and you
it's
go,
either stagey or it's always really bad light quality and things like that. Well, that's why we were so excited, because I don't think it's like full HD, but it's very good quality on the videos. So we were absolutely, we got something crisp here, apart from the toenail sticking out this little girl's forehead.
You got a very smooth brow.
Yeah,
I get it. That's brilliant.
I mean, I'm not like sort of averse to it, because like I've been on a film set once in an old an old hospital in Darlington.
Right.
And we were filming like a ghost story horror film comedy thing. Me and Craig, who was me sort of co-star in it, both have two completely separate occasions and two completely separate wings of this hospital caught on film as outtakes, where we're in the middle of the scene, we're back and forth, blah, 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 and then out of nowhere, either he or me will go, God, because we've got a finger just rolling down the nape of our neck. That's all. It's weird. Like, so I'm certainly not like sort of skeptical about it. When I put it into the computer, it was because I wanted to prove it was real rather than prove it wasn't. So when it wasn't,
and all because you were fingered.
Yeah, quite literally. Yeah. Cold finger of death. Get me in the back of my neck. But
wonderful. Hey, great story though, Liam. Thank you very much for coming on. And your sartorial elegance, you make a perfect Gomez. I hope the gig went well. Did it tonight?
It went. Wait, I don't really know until like kind of tomorrow because it's a live stream thing. We'll have a couple of people in the audience. My partner's in the corner going, "You did good."
There you go. Oh, bless. No, it's sweet. It's just so hard these days to. We want live entertainment back desperately. We need it. We miss it. We pine for it.
Today's announcement, I've lost a good couple of £100 worth of singing work and things like that. So because pubs can't keep me in, and the shows, we were actually supposed to be rehearsing for the Addams Family in our theatre group at this moment in time, but we had to push it back a year. So it's horrible, and that's why we're raising the money for it, is to try and finance the first show back at the Time Theatre.
Good luck to you, and absolute respect. Thanks a lot, Liam. Take care, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Bye-bye. How about that? Everybody's making me look shabby tonight. We've seen an Alan Robson that's better looking. We've seen a Gomez and a Liam who's better dressed. God, crimey. I think the only thing I can do then is take you to a place where an awful lot of you have visited, even if it's just for the car boot sale. It's See 'em. Enjoy. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a proper Grizzly tale from See 'em. Love See 'em, always have. Lovely people, hard as nails, our kind of folk. And this little tiny beach, synonymous with one of the great ghost stories. I want to tell you the story of a man called Jack. Now, this guy was a bit of a ladies' man. He used to love doing all of that, chasing after women and trying his best to win them over and have some nice sex right here on See 'em Beach. Not just on this one, but the sand dunes further up as well. Because of the way he talked to women, they called him Slavery Jack. Now, in the Northeast, especially if you don't happen to come from the Northeast, in the Northeast, if you call women certain names, and in the Northeast, we're very keen on calling people hello pet, hello darling, hello sweetheart, hello angel, all of that. That's kind of grist to the mill here in the North. That's how we talk. But if you go back to when Slavery Jack was about, we're talking late 1800s, early 1900s, for him to go up and call a complete stranger my darling buttercup, my sweetest precious poppet, you can imagine, apart from me spitting at the camera, you can imagine just what people thought of him. What a slaver he is. So his name was Slavery Jack. However, one day he was in See 'em Town when it was ye olde See 'em Town, and he went into a tavern and he met a woman called Beatrice Robinson. Now, Beatrice, beautiful, beautiful woman, and he fell in love with her. And from that moment on, other women, don't forget it. He was loyal, steadfast, and true to Beatrice. But he was a slaver. He was also a sailor. Put those two things together, a nightmare for any potential father-in-law. He would want somebody that was land-bound, prepared to work hard on land to make a living for his daughter, not some of these fly-by-nights who'd be on a ship for 6 to 8 months a year. So Jack sailed everywhere. He went off to the Pacific Ocean, where he saw natives doing all kinds of different things. We'll come to that later. He also went down to Africa a lot. He was a very successful seaman. He was a boatswain on a couple of ships. However, he went up to see Mr. Robinson, and he even suggested, well, why don't you give me a job on shore? If you give me a job on shore, then I can marry your daughter. We can live happily ever after, and I'll be here. Mr. Robinson didn't like him. In fact, took an adverse dislike to him. He had a reputation, and for him to come into the house and talk to Mr. Robinson's wife by saying, where is my darling, gorgeous baby? And where is my honey? Where is my lamb? Oh, he thought he was a right slaver, didn't want anything to do with him. And that's where this pier comes in. Have a look at it. At the present moment, you've got people on the pier fishing, and you got people on the beach. So why is this the most haunted area of Seaham? So month after month after month, he courted Beatrice, and they were having a great time together. She loved him to bits. They couldn't get enough of one another. Anywhere he went when he was home, Beatrice would be with him. So he went to sea. He came back, and he went up to Mr. Robinson, and he said, I'm going to marry your daughter. Mr. Robinson said, no, you're not. Forget it. I'm going to lock her up. She's going nowhere, especially not with you. So when his ship was due to sail, Slavery Jack, he decided he was going to sneak Beatrice on board the ship. And this he did. In the middle of the night, they snuck away. They got on the ship. Now, this is where certain phrases that we use every day come into parlance. You know the phrase, show a leg? You know when you sing, somebody get out of bed. Come on now, show a leg. Well, that was an old sailing expression because sailors regularly tried to get, usually prostitutes or girlfriends and wives, on board ship. And the only way that a boatswain could find out whether there was a woman there is to show a leg, and she'd stick her leg over the end. And if it was a man's leg, that's all right. If it was a woman's leg, get off me boat. They didn't do this with Beatrice. Beatrice managed to get away with him. And the ship that time was sailing down to Africa, and it did. And they got married on board. A captain by the name of McNulty married them on board the ship, and they were very, very happy about it, knowing that when they came back to see him, there's nothing that her father could do to stop them. They were already married. Now, this is when disaster struck, because Beatrice, in Africa, on shore leave, contracted a nasty kind of pneumonia that clung to the lungs, and it ended up killing her. So Slavery Jack then returned here to see him. The boat pulls into the harbour. Off he gets, and he's terrified. He doesn't know what he's going to do because, let's face it, Mr. Robinson hates him already. And now what he's got to tell Mr. Robinson is, I'm sorry, but your daughter died. We got married. I'm your son-in-law, but your daughter's dead. Now, that's a horrific story to tell anybody. So he tried avoiding him. Now, the story goes into two different paths at this point. Some say Slavery Jack then went back to say, didn't see Mr. Robinson ever again. That's one story. That cannot be corroborated. The one that can be corroborated is Slavery Jack came back and he started living in Seaham Town again. So it was only a matter of time before Mr. Robinson was going to bump into him. And eventually they did. And they had a real nasty shouting match. But Jack had seen some things the week that he was in Africa that had turned his head. He'd just lost his wife. He was going crazy with misery, for he'd lost the only woman that he truly loved. And while he was in Africa, he witnessed human cannibalism. A tribe in Africa that literally baked one of their enemies and then feasted on it. And he'd witnessed this. And this is only in the early 1900s. It wasn't that far away. But they ate this human being, and Jack had a slice or two, it was said, from the thigh of this man. He witnessed all kinds of horrific practices. So when he got back, his head was not where it should be. He'd lost his great love. He didn't want to live himself. So he went to see Mr. Robinson. Mr. Robinson, all the while, before he knew that his daughter was dead, used to come here to see him harbour. And on the headland just behind the car park, which I think we can get a shot of, if you look up there, every night that Beatrice was away, Mr. Robinson came to that headland and he stood there and he watched and he waited and he prayed for his beloved daughter to come home. That is the headland. Now, it's said that his spirit walks across this headland, and if you go up there, you can feel his misery. Some people have been up there and suddenly they've felt terrifying feelings of wanting to leap off into the sea. And Mr. Robinson had had a heart attack, and he still came down every night to see if Beatrice was coming back. And he would stand on the headland holding a lantern. And some people have said that when they come here, sometimes they'll park up and there'll be a light moving along the top of that headland. And it's said to be him. However, that's not where the story ends. Oh, no. Because Jack was now hating Mr. Robinson, because essentially Mr. Robinson had stopped him being happy here in Seaham. He was quite happy to give up the sea. He wanted to work for Mr. Robinson and live a happy life with Beatrice. But it was Robinson who had inadvertently forced him back out to sea. Just notice there's people actually in the water. They are insane. However, because it's a really cold day, Robinson had forced him to go back to sea. He didn't want to. And because of that, Beatrice fell ill. Because of that, Beatrice died. Because of that, he hasn't got the woman, rather, that he loved. And it was all Robinson's fault. In Jack's head, it was all his fault. So knowing that he came up to the headland one day, Slavery Jack waited for him. And it was a cold night, said to be in October. He was on the headland with his lantern. He knew by this time that Beatrice was dead, but he still came, not wanting to believe the fact that his daughter was gone. So he would come here. Some say that he met Beatrice's ghost on the hillside. Sounds a bit flowery. Who knows? But I'll tell you what did happen up here. Slavery Jack decided he was going to revenge himself on Robinson. And he got hold of him and he slit his throat and he dragged his body down to his camp on the beach. Funnily enough, not far from where that little metal cage is over yon side. I know they've got little babas playing at the present moment. But there's a tiny little alcove there, and it's said that down by the harbour wall where the metal gate is, he slit Robinson's throat and he sat him down. And because it was in the middle of the night, he lit a bonfire and he started skinning his body, taking off the flesh from the arms, taking the flesh from the thighs, burning the man's clothes and all his belongings on the fire. And when all the meat was carved off the bones, he ate it. And he ate as much as he possibly could. It said that especially he cooked and liked the offal, the kidneys, the heart, the liver, and he ate it on the beach here in Seaham. Now, Slavery Jack, what happened to him? Was he ever prosecuted for killing him? No. Robinson was never seen again. It's thought that he chucked his bones in the sea and the tide would have them away. And if there was any flesh left on them, the crabs, seagulls, fish, they'd have that away. So the bones went. He had piles of meat in his backpack and off he went. Slavery Jack, not going to sea again. He lived the rest of his life here in Seaham. And the interesting side story that makes this sound true is that about 8 months afterwards, a local hospital reported that a man had travelled into the hospital with a long white beard, a seaman because he had self-made tattoos on both his arms. And he asked the people there if he could have the limbs of people who needed to have an amputation. One of his friends actually had to have half his arm removed. And he asked, could he have the arm? And if anybody ever has a leg removed, could I have the leg, please? And it's thought that Slavery Jack, driven mad, had gathered a feel and a taste for human flesh. And even though he couldn't get it legally through the hospitals, it said that he traveled this whole area, and whenever anybody disappeared or whenever anybody suddenly didn't return home that night, a lot of people said that was Slavery Jack. And there's a rhyme that goes around the Northeast to this day all about Slavery Jack. Let me tell it to you. Old Slavery Jack took a bride. She took a fit and sadly died. Her father waited and he cried until War Jack took him inside. He soon cured the old man's pains. He ate his liver and stewed his brains. And you can hear him screaming down leafy lanes as Slavery Jack scrapes down the stains. His ghost said to be here too. Slavery Jack pushing people down the steps leading down to the beach, walking along the pier, and of course with old man Robinson, him creeping behind his spirit up on the headland. And that's the first of some of our grisly tales of Northumbria. We got more to come right here. Well, my apologies for the freeze. Don't know what that is. I can only put it down to the weather. But that was the story. Amazing story from Seaham Harbour, and a place where many of you have been, and probably a good number of you will be going to now that you have seen that. And, of course, that and about 150 other grisly tales waiting for you in our new book. However, let's crack on and get Angela from Liverpool, who has a story to tell. Hello, Angela.
Hello, Alan. Can you hear me?
I can. Nice and loud. Thanks for coming on. What's your story, Angela?
Well, back in June 1982, I was only a young girl at the time, but I was 7 months pregnant at the time.
Right.
I was living with the parents. And what happened was, it was a lovely hot summer's day. I don't know if you remember June 1982. It was a hot year that year. So I was a bit tired, you know, swollen legs, that sort of thing. So I decided to go and have a lie down on the bed upstairs. So it was sunny, come right through and shining into my face. So I decided to open the window, let some air through, and close the curtains so the light wasn't shining in my face.
Right.
Well, about 5 minutes into resting, and I wasn't tired, so I wasn't asleep, I felt a growling right next to me right ear and a breath against my right cheek. And it terrified me. I couldn't move. I had my eyes shut. I couldn't look. I was terrified to look. But then a few minutes after that, someone tried to grab my foot and pull me off the bed. So with that, I was so scared and shaken. I managed, I don't know how, to get myself out of the bedroom, run down the stairs to where my mother was. And she could see the state I was in. I was shaking and I was really, oh my God, so terrified. She's saying, what's wrong? What's wrong? I was screaming at her, but I couldn't speak. But then I managed to speak to her. And she went, what's the matter? I didn't want to tell her because I thought I was going mad. So I didn't want to tell her at first. So anyway, I managed to tell her what had happened to me upstairs. So she sat me down, got me some water, but she kept an eye on me. By about 11 o'clock that night, I wasn't over it. I just couldn't stop shaking. I was too scared. I couldn't move. She decided to take me to the maternity hospital to get me checked out. So when we got there, I was begging her, please don't tell them what had just happened to me. because I think they think I'm mad and they'd lock me up. That's what I thought.
Right.
So anyway, my mum told one of the nurses what had happened. So they decided to run a couple of tests on me to find out, you know, if I was okay and that, just to make sure.
Right.
It turned out my blood pressure, because of the shock, what just happened, my blood pressure had gone right through the roof. And they had to keep me in and induce me to have the baby early. So the date
Wow.
they gave me for to be due on was Friday, August the 13th. And they had to have him on the 6th of June because I was so ill because of the experience. And it stayed with me all my life. I'm 55 now, but I've never been able to get over it. And I keep thinking, you know, do I want to go back and try and relive it, you know, like through a regression? I don't know if
Right.
you suggest that or not, because I don't know what it was. It wasn't a ghost. To me, it was a demon. There was something demonic about it. And to this day, I still think about it and it just gives me the quivers. It scares me.
And on top of that, if you think about it, that experience could have killed you and certainly could have killed your child.
Yeah, that's true, because I ended up with something called preeclampsia. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I have, yes.
And then it progressed onto preeclampsia, toxemia, which is blood poisoning. And both me and my child nearly died because of it. But as I
Wow.
say, it's an experience I just can't, it just won't leave me. And I can't stand people touching my feet or going near my ears. It's still now. If someone went near my ears now, I'd have to shoo them away or
Right.
hit them because
Right.
it still now affects me. It's been a long time. I wish I could forget it, but I just can't forget it.
The only thing I would say about the regression, because I've done regressions for like 30 odd years, the only thing I would say about that is, first of all, the chance of you going back to that precise memory is quite high because it's still in the front of your mind after all of these years. So it is possible that you would go back there. But if you went back, usually when you regress someone, you're trying to find out what's happened in a previous life rather than this life. And people will not regress anyone who's been, for obvious reasons, sexually abused, raped, had any of that kind of thing. However, the interesting thing might be to find out why this, whatever it was attracted to you in the first place. And I know a lot of people say, well, ghosts are attracted to the new young life force, and you were just a young woman and you were pregnant, so you were absolutely vibrating with life force at that time.
Yeah, see what you mean. See, we did live in a haunted house, and it's the same house actually. We had lots of experiences, all the family members, and
Right.
it did scare us, but the parents, because they couldn't afford to move out the house, they had to keep living there. So we just sort of like put up with it, and what we saw, we told each other about. But this was the only experience that it really, really scared me. The others were like, well, I saw that. Did I really see? You ask yourself, don't you? Did you actually see and hear things? Or
No, absolutely. The
but
weird
when
thing.
everybody's saying it, you sort of, you know it's true because everyone's seen different things at
Right.
different times. But with this one, it was only me that experienced it. But as I say, it's always lived with me. Even only yesterday, I was thinking about it again, and it bothers me. I even used my quilt on the bed. I had to cover my ears to go to sleep because I was scared of something coming near my face again. But what it was, I couldn't tell you. But what it was really terrified me.
Well, it's a fabulous story, though, Angela.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming on. Great to hear from Liverpool. Bless you, darling. Stay well.
Quick hello to we listening via our headset in big screen. There's a couple of my friends there that we listen every Sunday.
Great.
One of them's called Hondo, and he introduced me to your show. So I've been listening for about 6 months now.
That's brilliant. Hey, well, thanks to them all. Thanks again, Angela. Take care, sweetie. Bye.
Okay, bye.
There you go, Angela from Liverpool. Love Liverpool with a passion. Now, before we go any further, we've got Michael from Gateshead, but just before that, 2 minutes we're going to take of your time because Chris should be with us somewhere if Tony can remotely put Chris on. I know he's scary enough to look at. It's
Happy Halloween.
It is Halloween, which is perfect.
It
Chris,
must be.
you've got some images that you want to share with us. And what I said to you guys was, if we're going to do this, because obviously this is our Halloween effort. We're not connected to any TV or radio station or whatever. It's just our thing. We thought it would be a cool idea for you to have a look at some things that you've seen that you consider to be pretty damn cool and maybe proof of spirit. What kind of stuff have you found then?
Yeah, well, I've been having a look around for evidence of the paranormal caught on camera, you could say. The first one here that you'll see, a Mexico airplane. This is on a basically at an airport in Mexico, and it's completely switched off. It's deserted, as you can see on screen now. Now they hear strange sounds coming from it, strange screaming and howling sounds. So a security guard goes in, he's got his cam on, obviously, and he starts walking down, as you can see, and look at the end of the corridor on the plane there.
I've just seen it. There it is.
Strange shadow poking its head around. Now, if you watch the replay here, you'll see, if you missed that the first time, he's completely on his own in there. You can see how pitch black it is. You'll see again as it replays, as he goes down the end of that corridor.
Yeah, there it is. It's almost like somebody leans in from one side and then goes back away again.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is. But he doesn't go, as you can see, he turns around and legs it out there. He doesn't get, he goes a bit further down, and then he sees that, turns around and completely takes off, as you would. But it's just weird. It's some sort of strange head popping around the corner. The next one. Now, have a look at this. It's another airport. This one's in Thailand. But have a look at this image, and what's wrong with it?
Well, it's just people getting off a plane, isn't it?
It is. Now, have a look as the camera just zooms out slightly. What's wrong with that now? It's people getting off a plane. However...
Shit, there's no plane.
There's no plane. This is at Thailand airport. A security guard noticed all of this, got his phone out, started recording. No plane, but clearly, as clear as day, people walking to and from the terminal. No explanation for that one.
But the terminal's closed. This is not in use.
It's not in use. It's apparently it's a deserted part of the airport. They don't use it, or they use it very rarely anyway. There's definitely no plane there at this moment. What could be causing that?
That's cool. That is cool.
It is pretty unexplainable, that one. If anyone's got any reasons, obviously, fair enough.
Yeah.
But and
you
the
got one
final
more.
one, this is a guy who's walking his dog through the woods in Russia. He's got his phone out, as a lot of people do. He's just on there. His dog starts barking, runs towards this. He turns the corner. This is the scene that he sees in front of him.
She's flying.
Yeah. Now, the camera's a bit shaky here, but they hear the disturbance from the dog. She jumps down and they run off. And
what the hell's that?
It's all I know is that's some woodland in Russia. I don't know anything more about that one, but found it. And I mean, can these things be explained? I've trying to justify them myself, but it's pretty tricky.
For you to try and replicate that last one,
that's the thing,
and have a child flying.
Yeah.
If you were to just come across that, and it was somebody trying to, well, first of all, you'd allow it to happen. But
how?
If well, let's say there was somebody behind a tree with a rope or whatever, kind of holding the bairn up in the air, she would have to come down and be detached, and whoever's got the camera would see all of that. So,
and it's also, you can see by the guy on the camera, it doesn't look planned, it doesn't look staged, it's shaky, you don't see, it's only for a split second. And also when she's up, it looks like her hair's flying as if it doesn't look like she's been held up by anything at all. It's like she's in the air. And then the fact that she lands and they run off, it's just one of those very strange mysteries, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we love all of that. And if anybody else has got any more you want to send them to us, we'll put them on too. But Chris, thank you very much for that. Let's go across to Michael from Gateshead. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Alan. How are you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, and fine-looking fella he is too with his mutton chops. Michael, what can we do for you, mate?
Tell you what, them videos were absolutely amazing, mate. Absolutely amazing. But what it was, I don't know if you can remember, right? A good few years ago, I sent out a couple of CDs to you with a little bit of haunted stuff on. It was from a pub called the Queen's Head at Sheriff Hill.
Yeah, I know it. I remember them very well. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just I know you're doing a little something tomorrow. I was just wondering, would that be in with your lineup, or is it just something you haven't got anymore?
If we can find them, no, I'm a right anorak. I keep everything filed and in place, and I'm a nightmare. I think I must have been born with ADHD to collect the stuff in the way that I do. We'll have it somewhere. We didn't have it planned for tomorrow, but if we can go back, find it, dig it out, and process it in time, we'll stick them on. Tell everybody what you got, though.
Well, basically, what we had got, right, we had like a few video recorders and stuff like that, and I think we actually were on Halloween, and we had a voice recorder. Right now, at the back of the Queen's Head, it's actually a house now. There's a couple of floors with like little flats in there, you know. It's no longer there really anymore. But on the very back stairs, right, we had left like a recorder on there, right, and we just left it running for about an hour or so. And it wasn't until we actually got back home the next day and I had it, you know, because we're there till 6 o'clock in the morning. Honest to God, you know, when we're listening to it back, it was just amazing. You know, if I remember correctly, it was it sounded like a little girl and a little boy talking and screaming and a dog barking. You know what I mean? It was clear as day, you know.
Right.
And a woman telling them to be quiet. So, you know, that was pretty weird. But then we were on the very, very top floor, just me and my mate. I think his name was Stephen, wasn't it? Yeah. Aye, Stephen. And what had happened is we went up and we're just sat in, like, it was like an office area, but wasn't used as an office area anymore because it was too spooky. So what had happened is we just faced the two cameras to the doorway. And right at the top of the stairs, so you know, you come up like a flight of stairs along a little bit of a land, and then up another flight of stairs.
Right.
And there was a big, massive, like brown figure there. No, we could never ever explain that, but I sent that to you with the video as far as I can remember. You know, I'm talking, it's got to be 15, 20 years ago, maybe. You know what I mean? It was a long, long time. You know, we caught that, and then we were in the gents' toilets, which was in the function room area on the second floor, right? And we could hear moaning and stuff like that. But then we had found out, like later on, that many, many years ago, somebody had a man had hung himself in there.
All right.
Right, so that made it very, very interesting. And we left the camera in there, but we didn't catch anything. But we did catch something on the recorder itself.
Right. This strange disembodied voice. Who is that person?
Yeah, exactly. I know, but you know, I was just wondering because, like, you know, if ever I could get a copy of that back off you, you know, if you did have it, I would love to have it. You know what I mean?
Well, I'll certainly have a look. I'll see if I can find it. There's no question about that. It's just the strange thing is, I love the fact that you didn't just go in that and kind of cast it off as we got there. We had all these cameras. I mean, you really went for it, didn't you? That was the thing.
Well, we did. Well, I DJ'd there for about 3 years.
Right.
You know, I was the DJ there. That's the only reason why I had access to the place, you know. And there was like me, Hazel, my wife, Amanda, Steve, you know, and I think it was somebody else and a daughter, Hazel's daughter. And obviously Hazel was like my manageress. So we got permission off the owners in any way. And basically they says, knock yourselves out, get yourselves away, because we won't live there, you know. Even the owner's brother was up in, you know, they had a good drink one night and he just thought, oh, we'll just sleep upstairs. About half an hour later, after everybody falls asleep, all the alarms going off because our brothers just ran out of the place.
Wow.
You know? Aye, because, you know, because somebody had pulled the quilt off them. And it wasn't a joke, there was nobody there, you know. It was just this one room, and it was just like a horrible, horrible room, you know. And that's why he was sleeping. So he ran downstairs, didn't think about switching the alarms off on the way, and he was out, and he was away down the street in his boxer shorts, as far as I can remember. So, you know, for those that are actually living in the Queen's Head at the moment, if you're all listening in,
yeah, give us a call.
Canny place, get a video camera going, you know, because there's downstairs in the main room, the orbs were amazing. You know, one followed my wife into the toilet. She came back okay. It's all right. You know, just be possessed.
That was the first time you saw an orb holding its nose as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, most probably because we were related to it. So how you know, it can't be anything worse there. Like you know, no, it was just a really, really creepy time. And I do remember you actually playing a few clips on Night Owls.
Oh, we did, absolutely.
You know, so absolutely brilliant. But if you could find them and maybe stick something in tomorrow night, I'll make sure I'm watching.
If we can, we absolutely will.
Because we found a way to we found out one way to make it easier for you to see you. We'll put you on the big telly.
Hey, now that's
right.
Well,
So,
blessed.
as soon as I'm off, I'm going to meet you off and we're going to listen to the rest of it. But hey, Alan, nice to see you back, mate. Brilliant stuff.
Bless you. Thanks, man.
Bye-bye, mate.
Bye-bye. How nice is that? Good stuff. So, we've got something quite scary for you. And then we've got another one of our grisly tales from Northumbria. This time we are heading south of the River Tyne again. This time to Rowlands Gill. Ever been to Rowlands Gill? Have you been to this precise place? And even if you have, did you know the story? It's one of the number that the book has been a springboard for us to go out and record some of these stories because they need putting down. Fingers crossed it won't freeze. But before that, what are the people who has acted as a facilitator, a presenter, a co-host, a driver, and every other job known to man, including all of the crappy ones? He's somebody that's worked alongside me. To be honest, I helped him get his very first job in radio that he's just left along with me, and that is Kenny D. Hello, Kenny.
Oh, doing this live now, huh?
Yes, you're on, man. Who? Where is he? Can't see him yet. Heard him briefly. Hi, Kenny. Are you there? There he is. Frozen. I think I quite like him frozen. Squinty Kenny D. What's going on? I can hear you. Just don't effing blind about how weird you look there. I can. Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
You can hear me.
We can hear you, Kenny.
I can hear you.
Hello, Kenny.
I can hear you. Can't see you, so.
That's all right. Well, that's a blessing for everybody, frankly. I can. So the thing is, where was the very first time, ghost-wise, that I got you involved with something? Where did we take you?
You've took me to lots of places. You've took me to Loch Ness. You've took me to the Bourne Cathedral.
Good God. Yes, it was.
But that one was probably the most scariest one, the Bourne Cathedral.
Now, let me just explain to everybody the Bourne Cathedral. You think, well, where's that? Look up Bourne Cathedral. If you drive about 50-odd miles northwest of Prague in the Czech Republic. Oh, there he is. Move your lips. Pretend you're alive, Kenny. No, he's gone again. Anyway, if you drive
alive, honest.
Good. If you drive about 50 miles from Prague, Czech Republic, wonderful place, you find yourself in a small place called Kutna Hora. And there is a church that is rammed full. It's actually built from human bodies, human skeletons. There's a chandelier made out of 340 human skeletons hanging from the ceiling. There's piles of skulls 40 feet high. And Kenny and I went to visit it. We had to bribe our way in, and our taxi driver beetled off and left us in the cemetery at the end of the show. So it was an interesting time. Very briefly, and sorry to steal a bit of your slot, Ken, but important that I let everybody know the story before we get into your adventure there, which is at least as great as mine. A preacher from that church went to the Holy Land. When he was there, he decided to bring back something to remember it by. Now, he didn't get a fridge magnet because they didn't exist. He didn't get a tiny little ornament that said Holy Land on the bottom. Instead, he shoveled up some soil and he threw the soil on getting back to Kutnahora onto the cemetery. And then he started advertising, you can be buried in the soil where Jesus walked. Well, of course, it was a bucket full he had, not a cemetery full, but all of the rich heads of Europe, all of the wealthy and the elite wanted to be buried in the land where Jesus walked, in the soil that Jesus walked on, because they thought they'd get straight into heaven. So before you know where you are, the entire cemetery's full. So then they start burying bodies on top of bodies and on top of bodies and bodies and bodies and bodies until there was literally human skeletons poking through the soil all over the place. And the Pope heard about this and was going to excommunicate him until the priest told the Pope, do you realize how much money we're making for your church? At the equivalent of millions at the time. So the Pope said, oh, hey, I'm not going to stop this. I know what. Decorate the church with human bodies because there's no room underground. And they were already digging other bodies up and putting their skeletons in the church and putting new bodies in every day, digging some up and putting some in, which meant the church was full of something like 43,000 human bodies. People's mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, sons, daughters. So they decorated the church with them. They made ornaments out of them, chandeliers out of them, piles of bodies, piles of bones, thousands of skulls. And that's how it looks today. If you look up Bourne Cathedral, Kutnahora, next time, and after this, obviously, have a look and your mind will be blown. So, Kenny, did you have any idea where I was taking you?
I didn't have a clue, but when we went there, vividly, I remember when the taxi driver left us in that graveyard, you went inside. I stayed in the graveyard where there was pictures on all the gravestones of the people that were buried there, which made it scary anyway. And they were all lit up. And there was just, if you remember, there was like a swirling black mist inside. And I think you'd had enough by then as well. And I was left in the graveyard at midnight at Halloween by myself. You know, and it was just the scariest thing I've ever done. That of all the things that we've ever done, that was without a doubt the scariest.
Do you know, if you were inventing a ghost train, the photographs on the graves at Kutnahora, they were all black and white, and they looked like the kind of stuff that you couldn't make it up. They actually looked really effing frightening looking people, didn't it? I mean, and they all, when you walked, the eyes kind of followed you wherever you went. And I didn't give it a thought because you said you were feeling uncomfortable in there and there was this mist kind of thing that was moving around. And if for people that have been in dusty houses, you see the mist moving, you see the dust moving in the air. But in this way, it was kind of spinning and moving. And I got a really bad feeling about it. It was kind of like almost like a panic attack. And it's not something I do. But I remember coming running out, completely forgetting that you were on your own in the middle of a cemetery on your own. And you nearly, well, frankly, shat yourself. When I came out, the door just went boom. I went boom. And then the next time I saw you, you were levitating. You'd just gone up in the air and you were still coming down. But that happened. I went back in twice. But it was an amazing thing, and we caught voice. The most amazing thing about it, apart from the experience that we both had, which was literally phenomenal, when we played the recording out, and we've still got it on robsonsworld.com, when we played the audio out, somebody heard a voice in the background, and I couldn't make out what it was, because obviously it was in a foreign language. And then somebody rang in who was Czech and said the voice actually was saying, let me out, I must get out of here. And
that's right.
I couldn't hear it, but it was on the recording and neither of us heard it at the time, but we did hear odd noises, weird things. And then, of course, the taxi driver beetled off and left us 50 odd mile from where the hotel was, and we had to try to
So
find
in
my
the
way
strange
back.
country left there in the graveyard. Not the best thing, was it?
It was. But then again, you also got touched in Alistair Crowley's cemetery up in the outskirts of Loch Ness.
I did. I made sure there was no one near me, and I was looking around the graveyard, and it was scary, and you're pouring the rain. And as I was near a tree, something touches on the shoulder, and I thought it was one of our colleagues who had done it, and it just wasn't. It just, you thought, what the hell was that? And I looked around, there was no one near us, but someone definitely touched me on the shoulder, 100%.
And it couldn't have been a tree branch or a short-sighted sparrow or something?
Couldn't have been anything like that at all. No, not at all.
What's the most vivid thing that you've experienced? Because again, we have done the whole Loch Ness thing. You were pumping the oxygen for me when I went into Loch Ness, and you've done so many things to help us. We've had some amazing adventures. What has been? I know that Kutnahora was the scariest thing, but what's the most vivid thing you've ever had? Yes, you've been touched. Is that the worst of it?
I mean, that was the scariest one. I mean, we've done things in Chillingham, which always never fails to sort of scare you. Does a Chillingham always brings something up there? So I've loved all the ones at Chillingham as well. But even the local ones, I mean, when we did the aircraft museum, that was really...
Oh, he's vanished. Maybe a ghost from the museum's decided, you're not talking about me tonight, but there's Kenny disappearing. We thank him for that. I know we've got some more people coming on, and then we've got Viking story to tell about Roland's Gill. I will take another caller if there is one there. I think it's Paul from South Shields. Hiya, Paul.
Hello, Alan.
Hey, great to catch up. Hey, where have you been? We've missed you, man.
I work crazy hours, I've told you. I'm down the country all the time, mate.
That's good to have you back. I remember you and I doing Dorothy Foster's house at the Lord Crew.
Lord Crew Arms, yeah. Yeah, and I heard footsteps behind the wall. But it turned out there was a bathroom, and then there was a set of stairs.
So it could well have been just somebody going up and down the stairs rather than a...
No, I don't think so. Because
not
it sounded like it was
John
going across ways, not up over.
Right. All right. Okay. That's interesting.
Yes.
Right there,
Yes.
there you go.
And
Okay,
then there
so-
was a time we were chasing you all over Northumberland, trying to catch up with you in the minibus. Oh, the minibus, the Sunderland one, we had a trail of people following us. We didn't have a clue where the hell we were going.
No, what we decided to do is, for any night owls that are not quite sure about this story, we decided to do something called a proper Grizzly, and I know the book's called Grizzly Tales from Northumbria. We decided to have a Grizzly Trail, and the idea was I'll be in the front car telling stories about all the places we drive through, and we were going to finish going up into Northumberland, and we didn't tell the police. Then we discovered about 10 minutes in that we should have done, because people in our car kept getting stopped left, right, and centre. Says, where are 2,000 cars going at 10 o'clock at night?
Looking for Sony Bean and Alan Robson.
That's exactly what it was. And I remember, was it you that drove into the car park and about 19 cars followed you?
Yes.
Brilliant.
And
Because
then
the thing is, because the train, and it was a train, if you can imagine, 2,000 vehicles end to end, is about 16 miles. And all you need is one red light. And where is he now? We're listening he's up beside Anik. We've got to get up there. It was a fun night, but I did end up with about 9 cars behind me and nobody else. Everybody else had gone left, right, car park, pub. It was really funny.
Then there was a trail through Sunderland, and we wound up at Beamish Hall.
We did, and everybody got to Beamish Hall because we made sure we knew where we were heading.
And they were following us.
That's right, again, I
In
know.
the minibus, yeah, because we lost you at the lights a few times, aye.
But the thing was, because we put a buffet on as well for you at Beamish Hall.
Yes,
Happy
we did.
days. Have you?
Did, yeah,
Maybe
it was a
we've
good
had some
one.
adventures in our time, have we not?
We have indeed, sir. We have indeed. And then
What's-
Susan
what's
the
been
children.
What's been your most vivid anything? Because I know your wife came up and did a Chillingham ghost hunt with me, and
Yep.
she had to quit almost immediately. She got the fright of her life.
She did indeed. The most vivid one for me was when I used to work at the Port of Tyne, and not long after my dad had passed away. Now, before he went, he told us a story about he was sitting snoozing in his chair, and he felt this warm feeling starting from his toes,
Right.
coming up his legs, getting to the middle of his body, and he says he got up to there, and he went, no. He says, and it went down. He says he thought he was on his way out there, like. No, I says to him, look, when you cark it, cheerful little conversation you have with your father. I says, let us know that you're all right, but don't appear in front of us because I'll wind up joining you. So I'm on shift anyway at the Port of Tyne where I used to work, and we had these heating columns, like packages up on the wall. There were heaters as well as air conditioning.
Right.
Now, when it used to switch off, it used to like exhaust. So it would switch off, you'd hear the fan stop, and it would go like that.
Right.
So I'm sitting in this canteen on my own, not a radio on, not a TV on, and it switched off, and it went, and I heard my dad's voice as plain as day say, Paul. Now you can imagine all the hair stood up on me head.
Yeah.
But suppose I never moved from this spot, it was definitely his voice, and he said, Paul.
And
that's the most vivid.
Do you think that? How do you read that? Do you read that? Well, I'm okay. Was it reassuring? Or?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it was just him saying, "I'm all right, kid.
Right.
I've come back and I've fulfilled my promise." I mean, there was a time when we went to York. The first time that Chris done a bit of recording when we went down to York, and we had the seance upstairs, and my mum came through and had me in tears.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing. A lot of people would say, well, you just like the subject. But when you have something that's real, and this is the difference. Loads of people say, well, I would need something to prove to me. When you get a bit of proof, then you become kind of obsessive because there's more out there, and how much more can I get? That's the thing.
Definitely. I mean, I was told to ask a question in my mind. I mean, I think it was about half a dozen. We had our fingers on this glass,
right,
on the table, and I was told to ask a question because it came through that it was me mum, and what she said was they wouldn't have known. And then she says to ask a question in your mind, and tell the glass which way to go, and it did. Yes, I was gone.
Brilliant.
But that was an awesome night, and young Chris done a great job, and now look at him now.
Tell you, it's the only one working. Brilliant.
Your apprentice.
I know we've done a good job with him. Good man. Hey, Paul, love to the family. Thanks for coming on. Great to see you.
Cheers, Alan. Nice talking to you again, kid.
Bye-bye. There you go. It's a family affair, as Sly and the Family Stone once said for money. I think we shall Viking next. We're going to take you to another one of the sites of our Grizzly tales from Northumbria. And a lot of people asking about it. Not going to... it's a new book. It's out today. And it's available on Northern Heritage. It's on Amazon and all of those kind of things. That's it there. Right. So if you want it, get it, champion. Meanwhile, it's this show that counts. We're just going to get as much into it as possible. We've still got some more ghosty clips. The thing that I think is absolute proof of spirit to me, and also we will be playing you some of Tony's clips, but only after we have visited Roland's Gill. Let's put that one on for you. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Alan Robson with you, of course, on the Grizzly Trail. And we've come here. I don't know whether you recognize it. If you look across that way, you'll see where the old Townley Arms used to be in Rowlands Gill, which was a big centre for weddings and marriages and christenings and essentially getting drunk and falling over a lot. It's now a chippy and a bit of a club and what have you, and a big campsite down here. We're in Rowlands Gill, of course, and an amazing landscape. If you look, you've got the tower at the far end, stately homes. This is just a beautiful part of the country. And yet it's got one of the least known Grizzly stories that you really should know about. We sing Rule Britannia, Britons never, never, never shall be slaves. And of course, we have been to pretty much every country around us. We've had French kings, German kings, but for a long time, we had Viking rule in this part of the world. And it's about Vikings that I'm telling you this story. Please don't be put off by the stupid hat. I just love it. It's a bit of Peaky Blinders. It's a bit of steampunk, but enjoy the giggle with it. However, what's the story? The story is a great one. Now, if you go down to Swalwell, there's a marina there, small marina, and it was one of the first places on the River Tyne where Viking longships sailed up the river from North and South Shields, sailed right the way up to get in there as far as they possibly could, to get inland so they could rape and pillage and steal from all of the small villages. And they came up regularly there. Now, on occasions, Viking warriors would meet northern wenches, fall in love, marry them, and they started to settle in Britain. Hence, York becoming the capital of Viking England. But in the early days, it was considered a traitorous thing to do for a Viking to leave his homeland in Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway. It was traitorous for them to come to a place like this because essentially you were joining the enemy in the early days. They weren't even sure themselves that they were going to conquer the land, as they did. The Vikings had a leader called Haga. He was very vicious, very unpleasant. And during one of Haga's longships pillaging the Tyne and Gateshead, Bladen, when they were small settlements, there was a man called Breda who fell in love with a woman here and decided he was going to get off the ship with his son because his previous wife had died. He got off the ship with his son and decided to settle. Now, like any great hero, he was renowned for the throwing axe. And he was apparently a dead shot with this axe. He could bring down a stag. He could kill a man. He was built like a brick toilet. His name was Breda. And he got used to living here, and the people around him took to him, liked him, supported him, helped him. And one day he was out looking for food for his family when a longship came up the River Tyne. And it was another of Haga's longships, which was the same people essentially that Breda came from. They recognized a small child and they followed the child home. And he led them all the way up the valley to roughly the field on the far side there, underneath the tower. That is where Breda had built his home. And it was a wilderness. There wasn't a campsite here then. There wasn't open fields. It was all woodland. And in the middle of that woodland, Breda had built a home for himself and his wife. Well, on getting to the homestead where the child showed where the house was, which little country cottage they'd built. And again, back then it was round houses. When they saw that that was the house, they got hold of the child, held him down and disemboweled him, ripped out his innards in front of his mother, and then grabbed hold of the mother and tied her to a tree because they were setting a trap for Breda when he came back. They were going to punish him for being traitorous to the Vikings. And again, at the time, there was a famous saying, beware the men of the north, because they were considered wild and crazy, and you couldn't fight them. They were vicious and violent, and disemboweling a child, it kind of shows you the level that they were on. And they'd set a trap down there where Breda lived, waiting for him to come home. The thing was, somebody tipped Breda off that there were Vikings about because they'd seen the longship on the Tyne, and it was only guarded by half a dozen people. So Breda, very, very keen to protect his family, decided that he and any men that he had with him that were just locals, people from Rolandsgill and surrounds, they were going to go onto the ship and kill the Vikings. Breda went on, had a heads off before you could say spit. The other guys helped him. The ship was sunk where it stood. There was nowhere for the Vikings to go. Then Breda started running. Now, he had to run a good mile or two to get up from the river to his place in the woods. And when he got there, he saw his wife in the distance, and she was tied to the tree. Now, most men would instantly have ran straight into the opening to try and rescue his wife, but Breda knew how the Vikings operated. So, knowing that the Vikings were very, very keen on trapping people, especially those that they had a grudge against, he knew that there would be Vikings around. So instead of running straight towards his wife, he went round tree by tree, slitting her throat, a dagger in the back, a quick axe. And apparently in one case, a man came running at him, and instead of hitting him with the axe overhead, he swung it beneath, hitting them between the legs, almost cleaving the man in two. This was a serious warrior. So there he was, working his way around until there was only 3 Viking warriors left. And one was the leader of the group, sent by Hanger to come and pillage. But having spotted Beda's son, knew that he had to come after him. And he wanted to take Beda's body back to his leader to show him just what a great warrior he was, because Beda was a Rambo of his day. So there was 3 men left. His wife was still tied to the tree. They all came at him, and he was swinging his axe, the 2-handed axe, over his head, and he ended up just with 1 man left, the Viking leader, spitting bile at him. Beda came and took the sword from his hand, breaking his hand in the process, and held the Viking leader on his knee and pushed the Viking back onto his knee until his back was broken. The Viking leader was still alive, still shouting and cursing at him. So Beda put his hand on his throat and tore out his windpipe. Now, what that actually did was not only confirm to the people hereabouts that Vikings were good people, that they could live alongside people who already existed here, the Northerner, I suppose within the banks of the River Tyne, classed as Geordies of the day. They could get on with them and that they could trust them, because had it not been for Beda, that Viking longship and all of the men on board would have raped, pillaged and murdered and massacred quite often up and down the River Tyne. And yet, from that day on, no Viking longship ever came back to the Swalwell Marina. And it was all down to Beda. This should not be called Rolandsgill. It should be called Beda's Gill. And if so, they should have a monument to this guy and a picture of a Viking with a long axe. And how many tourists would that bring? But instead, they got a little wheel. Hey-ho, that's history for you. But what an amazing Grizzly tale. And if you want some more, of course, Grizzly Tales of Northumbria is kicking. And we're sharing just some of those stories with you on this Night of Nights. There you go. And again, apologies for the freezing. I can't remember freezing at the time. I think I was fairly lucid, but I hope you're still enjoying them anyway. We've got a ghost hunt ongoing right now in Roker at the Wheat Sheaf pub. Gary is there with his team. Hello, Gary.
Hello, Alan.
Hello, mate. How's it going?
It's a little bit eerie, mate, because normally we'd be out of here because obviously lockdown is 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I'm here with my partner and a friend, and we decided we're going to have ourselves a little spook hunt.
Brilliant. Well, hey, say no press on as far as I'm concerned. You've got your own little bubble. So what have you had? Have you had anything yet?
Oh, not yet, but we've got quite a few tales about this place. You know, obviously because of the fire in 1890 something, when the original pub burnt down and a child and a dad died in the fire, and she's still here. And we've had that directly from a medium. And they're still in the pub now. We're actually downstairs in the bar at the moment. Everything's black, so it's nice and dark. It's quiet.
Right. So is the main story the story of the child, or are there other tales about the place?
It's quite a lot, really, about the whole place. You know, because obviously it's got quite a grim history. You know, the prostitutes murdered on the top floor. There's a dog in the building. There's a little girl on a bicycle in the building. The father walks along the landing between the downstairs floor and the top floor around the function room.
Right.
And then there's quite a bit up on the top floor as well. There's a woman crying in one of the rooms. There's a baby. There's quite a large entity in the back room. It's canny weird.
Well, it's just you picked a good place to spend the night. So presumably all the punters have long gone now with the 10 o'clock curfew. Have the staff gone yet, or are you totally on your own?
Yeah, the staff's gone. It's just me. It's just myself, my partner, and a friend.
Brilliant. So how did you get into the whole ghosty thing in the first place then?
Oh, you know what it is? I mean, believe it or not, I've got history with this place. It was back in 73. I used to come with my uncle, you know, and it was a bit strange, you know, because obviously walking into here now, compared to what it was back in the 70s, it's a totally different layout.
Right. But do you think that's probably one of the reasons why you get stuff there, because they've moved stuff around and whatever's there?
Yes, it stirred a lot.
Brings it out, it stirs it up a bit.
Yes, definitely.
Have you had any experiences previously that have really been vivid enough to mention?
Oh, definitely. I've got quite a few. When we took over the pub, in December of 2014.
Right.
And not long after we took over the pub, I was actually working a first night shift. It was quite a high energy as well because it had just been a match day. And then we had obviously the karaoke in the night time, so the building was still full of energy. And I got called up onto the second floor, and the next thing I know, I've been scratched. I got growled at on the top floor when I was stripping it all out after the Filipinos had evacuated the top floor.
Right.
They used to live up there.
Right.
And I've seen the mist in the cellar twice. So, as you know, I've had quite a few experiences myself in here.
Is that the only place that you've had something?
Oh no, I've had experiences all over. I mean, there was Southwick when I lived at Southwick, on Faber Road when we heard a baby crying, like most nights, and we thought it was a next door neighbour because obviously we'd not long been moved in, and they started with all this noise and what have you, and then there was like a baby crying. So obviously I knocked on, and the people next door to us turned around and says we don't have a baby. And then when I went back into the house, I could hear like something on the stairs. It turned out to be a ball bouncing down the stairs, but there wasn't actually a ball.
Creepy.
Yeah, crazy.
Creepy stuff.
And we moved out to there, and we went over to Dryden Street in Southwick, which is not there anymore now. They pulled it down. But I came in after a night's work, and I was doing the dishes, and I looked out of the window, like literally to me right. I looked out the window, and I was in the upstairs flat, and I saw a little boy sitting on the wall. And obviously we were quite high up because they were all pit houses, you know, they were quite like, they were 10-foot ceilings.
Right.
And I looked out the window and I looked straight at him. It was like as clear as day. And I said to him, I said, "Oh, get off there, because obviously if you fall off there, you're going to hurt yourself." And then I turned to the door, which was literally 3 feet away from where I was standing, opened it, and there was nothing there.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I'm loving your camera work, mind you, because it is pitch black down there. I mean, you got the right kind of mood and right kind of atmosphere.
Right, I'll tell you what it is then, guys. If you're going to follow me, right, what we'll do is we'll give you a show around.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, absolutely, go for it. Put the image on full. Make me small. That's good. Yeah, we got you now. Go for it.
Right, I'm coming through. I'm going to take you down into the cellar.
Right.
Okay, because this is where I saw the mist, and this is where it gets creepy. Right now, you should be able to see fairly well because the lights are on.
Right.
Okay, so we're going down. Excuse it's a bit. Right now, when I first saw the mist, it was right here.
Right.
And I was literally, I'd put my takeaway in the safe, and the mist came across here.
Right.
And it followed, and it went through here. It went through here and into that doorway across there.
Right.
Yeah. And this door here was originally what's left of the original pub. I call it the staircase to nowhere.
Can you point the camera the other way? Sorry to bother you. Can you point your camera the other way? Because we're just seeing your face at the moment rather than what you're seeing.
Right,
Could we have a look at the... Yeah, that's...
Right, so how do I turn the camera?
Just turn it around. Don't do anything fancy with it.
Here, Alan. We're having to do that. Right.
I think I can safely say I've buggered that. No, there you go. Just turn the phone around so we can have a look at the room that you're in. Because handsome chap though you may be, we'd like to see the room you're in as well, please.
Right.
Oh, there we
go.
go.
Can you see that?
Yeah, we're getting it. That's right.
We're actually in the cellar. We're in the cellar
Gotcha.
now. Like I said, when I first saw the mist, I came down. I was putting me takeaway in the safe, and then I saw the mist come across here.
Right.
And then we followed it straight through, and it went through that door, which is like underneath the front of the bar.
Right. I mean, does that door lead anywhere?
It just leads into the front of the bar, and it's
all right.
It just goes.
Oh, I see. I'm with you now. Can you?
Down here.
But presumably the door was closed and the mist went through it. Did it?
Yeah. And then we, like I was telling you, we had the staircase to nowhere, which is right here. Where it does open, you've got to yank it. Didn't want to yank it so much because it broke it.
Yeah, a lot of us have yanked it in the dark. Right.
It does open, but anyway, this is what I call the staircase to nowhere.
Right.
Because obviously this door used to be the way to the bar on the original Wee Chief, but like you can see, the staircase isn't here anymore.
No, I get you. Hey, well, we're going to leave it there, but thank you very much for giving us a guided trip. Let me know if you get anything else across the rest of the night, guys, okay?
Yep. Well, you take care, mate, and you be safe. All right.
You and all.
Talking to you.
Yeah, it's my honor. Thanks very much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Good stuff. We have Glenn in Barnard Castle. We're going to head there now, and then after that, Tony's going to show me some of the phenomenon that he's managed to come across that he thinks is pretty damn nifty. Think you will too. However, Glenn from Barney. Hello, Glenn. Oh, not hearing him. I'm seeing you, but I'm not hearing you, Glenn. So fingers crossed we can sort that out.
How are you? You all right?
There you go. You pressed the button. Hiya, Glenn. Good to see you, mate.
I'm
What's
all
your-
fingers and thumbs.
I know worries. What's your story tonight, then?
Well, I've been on a few times, as you know, talking about the jobs and things I've had and all the hotels I've worked in.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking of, it was a Jacobean hotel. So I think that's 1600s, isn't it, Jacobean?
It is, absolutely.
And I worked in the hotel and I was night porter as well. And I never told any of the staff that worked there because I thought they'd think I'm a loon. But I went in and I did the whole takeover, 10 o'clock. And then I started going around doing my locking up. And I walked down to the bar and I said to there was a guy sat there reading the Teesdale Mercury, which is the Barnard Castle paper.
Yeah.
And I said, 5 minutes, mate. I said, we're locking up. I said, but you're welcome to stay. And then I turned round and literally just the paper floated down to the table.
Wow.
And the man disappeared. And I'd shut the door, so he couldn't have gone out the door. He didn't have time. It was literally 2 seconds. And by the time I turned round, but the paper flopped back to the table. He didn't have time to get, he couldn't have got past me.
Wow.
So, and I thought, because I've told you before about a bit of my psychicness and I try and put it to one side. So I thought, I'm not telling any of the staff to think I'm a loon.
Right.
But it's one of the things I've never been able to explain what could have possibly happened.
Brilliant.
But like I say, it's a Jacobean hotel, but the guy was in a suit. It was a pinstripe suit, and he was just sat reading the newspaper, and I just thought he was a hotel guest.
Right, right.
And I've never been able to get to the bottom in my own head, really, of who he was and what, because he didn't appear to be a ghost. I thought he was a customer.
Right, right.
And he just literally disappeared.
Well, this is the interesting thing, because you've actually opened the door on something that Newcastle University students did some years ago, because they decided that they were going to take a photograph of a street in Newcastle called Northumberland Street. It's one of the main shopping. It's a pedestrianised area, and what they decided to do was they were going to put students on all of the roads off Northumberland Street from the bottom right the way up to the top. So that it was an experiment, and it says nobody is allowed to go into a shop or leave. And they filmed it, and there was something like 382 people on Northumberland Street. It was a Sunday.
Yeah.
However, when they counted them out of the street, there was 214. So where did all the other ones go? None went into shops because they'd strung the whole thing off. It was a proper experiment ordained by the council and everything. Nobody went into a shop. Nobody took a side street. Where did all those other people go? Or were they really there? Because, you mentioned you didn't see your guy as a ghost. He looked solid. He looked exactly the same as everybody else.
Mean, I've told you before, Alan, about premonitions I've had and how I was speaking to my dead granddad and how he told me things. But there was something not fully there with that. But I mean, and I knew I was psychic, but this guy, I had no idea. I physically thought he was a real person. Brilliant. But I mean, I'd only really ever had, it was always when I was night portering that anything had happened. There was another time I was going up and you do the tour of the hotel on the night, check everything's locked up.
Sure.
And I'm walking up the staircase and I see this a woman coming down in a nightie. So I'm very polite. I moved to one side, thought I'd let her past. And I went to turn and say, I'll be straight with you. I'm the only member of staff on. I'll come down to reception. I'll be behind you. And again, as I turned round, I checked the men's toilets. I checked the women's toilets. I checked all the restaurant. I thought, where has she gone? I checked the CCTV. Nobody there.
This wasn't the day that your takings disappeared, was it?
No.
Well, your audio is gone. It actually sounded like his banjo string. I certainly hope it wasn't. Did you hear that? It went ding. But anyway, you have lost your man, but stay well, Glenn. Thank you very much. Give me a wave. Bye-bye anyway. Thanks again, man. All the best. He sounds just, he wasn't there, then it was. Brilliant stories all the same. What about you, seeing things disappear? You know, we talked about disappearances and things going through walls and what have you. Standard kind of ghost fare. But have you actually ever seen something disappear? Because I've seen the darkness that moves. Have you? The darkness that's blacker than your surroundings. Have you seen that? It's one of the more common things. People usually have the cones at the side of your eyes. We're going to talk to Tony now and get all of his bits and pieces. What do you need for the blessing? Because I'm going to do the blessing straight afterwards. You need a candle. Light it. Have it ready. A dried leaf. Open your front or back door. You'll find one there. A dried leaf. A tiny little bit of soil. Just enough from the palm of your hand. Tiny little bit of soil. And you also should have a small bowl of water. Doesn't matter whether it's warm or cold. It just has to be water in a circular bowl or a saucer. Have those things side by side, and we'll try and get you a little bit of better luck because, blimey, we could all do with some. But anyway, let us magic up Hollywood, Tony McShane.
Hello.
Boom, there he goes. Hiya, To.
You
Right,
alright?
so what have you got for us then?
Well, I've got a few spooky things. Let me just get them on screen and hope they don't freeze. Like the
Yeah.
other bits.
All that work we've done unfrozen in the things frozen.
I think it's an issue with YouTube because nothing else is going wrong. But here are a few spooky clips.
Let's have them. What's the first one then?
Right, okay. Here we go.
Press play. Good idea.
Right, the first one. I'm not too sure why she's got a camera over her bed, but what happens next is quite
Probably the
freaky.
husband's put it up looking at her. There you go.
Well, I was trying to think of this. It doesn't look like a nice... Oh, here it is. Door opening on its own. And then...
Oh.
How can you explain that? I mean... And then there's an orb just flew off in the corner. I don't know if you caught that. But... Yeah. That one freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah, well, she switched... Oh,
Because it's got night cam, it's got night vision. That's how you saw it in white. So she's switching the light on now to see who or what that was. Obviously, no one's there.
Wow.
But yeah,
Good stuff.
This one's called Ghost Baby.
Oh wow!
It's on
Ghost
someone's
Baby.
monitor.
This is
and-
like a baby monitor that people get
Yeah.
so that they don't have to bother with their own children.
Well, exactly. You just you can sit and
Just
drink
stick a
wine from the
camera up,
living room and yeah.
Put
But
strictly
yeah,
on it. I get it.
Exactly. But that
Oh, look,
yeah, you
it's-
can see it's kind of drifting off.
It's almost turned into an orb and disappeared.
I know, but the baby
Wow.
didn't die, so it wasn't the baby's spirit. So I don't know if
Or was it the baby's spirit astrally projecting?
Oh, it could have, yeah.
Some people
yeah,
say
yeah.
that the spirit can leave the body. Yeah.
Yeah, I've tried that. Didn't work,
Yeah.
but here's the next one. This one's a little bit freaky. A ventriloquist doll locked up in a glass box. And this was filmed by someone in Liverpool. Basically, the mouth and the eyes started moving on their own.
Just seeing the eyes move there. Oh, and the cupboard opens.
Mm.
Oh, it's seen an orb, two orbs.
It's pretty freaky,
Oh,
that one.
eyes
as well.
have moved
yeah,
again.
There you go.
And
It's
the
doing it
mouth.
again. Yeah.
Wow.
Just there.
Oh,
there's
and
another
orbs.
orb. Yeah.
Some more orbs. Interesting stuff. Nice work.
I love that.
Nice one, Johnny. Mind you, tell
Well
them
explained.
Tell them about the first school, because when you joined the Night Owl team, you'd never even thought of ghosts particularly.
Well, I
But
have
we-
because of you just listening to you, but yeah.
But other
Not-
than that, you hadn't actually tried to find any.
I know.
We went to Bamborough Castle, and the story of that's actually in the Grizzly book as well. What happened?
Well, that was when I first ever, I think, heard and saw something because we were sitting waiting for the victim, and I
listener.
was just sitting on a step, keeping out of the way, and I just heard some footsteps in the background, and so it was obviously a big hall or something in there. But everyone else was in the other part of the castle, so I was like, "Who's that?" And I just thought, "Oh, it's you or Richard who was there as well." And no, because you two appeared in front of us, and the footsteps and the shadow I saw was behind. There was no one else in the castle.
But it was a full figured apparition that just kind of came out of a door. You saw him, and then he went back into the door, and you thought it was one of us, and then we both appeared from the other
different direction. It was so freaky, and there was no explanation because we had the castle on our own, and I knew where the lady was, and you two appeared there. So but that wasn't the worst one. I think the best one was Kielder Castle, when a really demonic voice told us to get out. And there was Suzanne Gill there, Richard, you in the front, you never heard it, but us three did, and we legged it. So
this is one of those things. It's not a secret nor a surprise. Just we like at the end of any of our investigations to have a beginning and an end, and we were waiting for an end, and we had two listeners. Tony, the taxi driver from Newcastle, was one of them, and an attractive young lady. And they were upstairs in Kielder Castle in separate rooms, but on the same floor. And they'd been hearing noises and seeing things and screaming and being scared in general. And I was waiting for the moment for the next scare, hopefully, so that I could go in and say, "Enough, we've had enough now. That's the end of it. We'll get you out of there." So I was listening up the stairs. We weren't directly underneath them. We were kind of a bit further along the corridor, but listening, straining our ears to see if we could hear them.
Yeah.
And Hollywood, you were right beside me. Then behind you was Suzanne Gill. Then behind Suzanne was Richard, all kind of waiting for the moment and being quiet. And the next minute, there was this, "Ah!" And I looked to my left, there's nobody there at all. And I didn't know what had happened because everybody had just beaten off. And then there was a bit of kerfuffle upstairs, and we could bring the show to an end. But we played the clip back because obviously everything was being recorded because we were all mic'd up. And you could clearly hear a voice telling you to get out.
Definitely hear it. And it wasn't a nice voice. It was a really demonic voice, and there was a really weird smell appeared as well.
Was that from you?
Well, it wasn't me. It could have been, Richard or Suzanne, but there was a really strange smell appeared at that time as well. So I don't know if that's connected, but
Kielder surprised me because it seems from the outside to be such a gentle place, and we've seen all kinds there, including the last time we went, because we went back to Kielder.
Yeah.
And two of us saw a full-figured apparition looking out of a window.
Well, someone got punched. Kirsty got punched, remember? So it's but there was the Ouija board table laid out in one of the old buildings, so it's obviously had a lot of things done in there. So I don't know what's left there.
No idea,
but it's not good.
But no smell left by us. Tony, thank you very much, man. All the best.
Thank you.
Good stuff. The blessing. Let us get to it now. I mentioned that you need a candle lit. Switch off all your other lights if you can do so safely. If you've got your bubble of people around you, that's fine. All you've got to do is repeat it. And Chris, if I can ask you just to mic up. Chris Felton, if you could...
Yep, I'm here. Hello.
Just all you've got to do is you will be my echo, okay? So you're just going to echo what I want the people at home to do, because everybody must repeat this blessing for it to work. Because what we're going to attempt to do is for every single portal, which television, gadgets, iPod, laptop, however you're watching this TV set, however you're watching this, those are energy receptors. So we're going to link not just the Northeast. We've already had Liverpool. We know there's people watching this in different parts of the world too. For all of you guys that are watching it, taking part, just repeat what I say and do what I tell you to do when I tell you to do it. Chris will repeat what I say, and you repeat it along with Chris. Okay. So, candle, you've got a dried leaf. You have a little bit of soil and a saucer with a small bowl of water. Okay. Don't burn yourself with the candle. Don't get hot wax on yourself. Nothing like that. We want this to be absolutely safe and sound. Okay. Repeat after me. Great powers of the north, south, east, and west.
Great powers of the north, south, east, and west.
To the earth and sky.
To the earth and sky.
To fire and water.
To fire and water.
To the great spirit within us.
To the great spirit within us.
We ask for your protection.
We ask for your protection.
To keep us healthy and free from harm.
To keep us healthy and free from harm.
In these times of trouble and discord.
In these times of trouble and discord.
Keep us safe.
Keep us safe.
Warm and surrounded with love.
Warm and surrounded with love.
We share the great circle with our tribute.
We share the great circle with our tributes.
Put the soil into the water and let it move. Now, we give you our land.
We give you our land.
Our trust brings us bounty.
Our trust brings us bounty.
Place the leaf on the water and on the soil. We give you our crops to thrive.
We give you our crops to thrive.
And we present you the gift of fire.
And we present you the gift of fire.
Put the candle out in the water. And as the candle extinguishes, you will see a rising of heat. Repeat after me. As the steam rises.
As the steam rises.
Our spirits soar.
Our spirits soar.
Uniting the world with love and safe being.
Uniting the world with love and safe being.
With it, please bring us luck.
With it, please bring us luck.
Good fortune and peacefulness.
Good fortune and peacefulness.
As dawn approaches on a brand new day.
As dawn approaches on a brand new day.
Give us the blessing of happiness.
Give us the blessing of happiness.
May our world become brighter.
May our world become brighter.
From this day forth.
From this day forth.
We banish bad luck.
We banish bad luck.
Let us be enveloped in your healing light.
Let us be enveloped in your healing light.
Now and always.
Now and always.
Blessings be.
Blessings be.
Blessings be.
Blessings be.
Blessings be.
Blessings be.
That's it. Thank you, Chris. And let that be so for you and your family. I wish you well. Okay, we have had Tony and his ghosts. Let's see if we can get David and Andrea, a couple from South Shields. Let's see if we can get them on. Let's see how ambidextrous Chris is, because he didn't expect to be used in that last little thing, but I just thought it was necessary to kind of help you along the way. Oh, there's a picture of a brave and valiant soldier. Hello, David and Andrea.
Alan.
Hello, David. Who's the picture of?
It's Andrew. I think you got the name wrong.
Oh, it's Andrew. I beg your pardon. Hello,
Yeah.
Andrew. Who's the,
All right,
who's the soldier in the picture?
That's my great grandfather who fought in World War II.
Put him on the main picture. Let's have a closer look at him, Chris, if we can. There you go. Fantastic.
He was in the Durham Light Infantry.
Brilliant.
And after the Allies were kicked out of France, he joined the Navy instead to fight, obviously, the Germans and stuff.
Right.
So,
wow.
Anyway, what I was going to say is he was blown up several times and swam back to shore each time. And then after the war, he went and became a miner, Fishburne Pit.
Right. Uh-huh.
And he was blown up and killed in the pits.
Oh, what? What
Yeah.
a story. She was. He survived being blown up numerous times during the war, And he
Yep.
loses his life there. Well, dangerous damn places, the pits, aren't they? They're horrific back in the day.
Yeah, that's right. And what I was going to say about him is that it was 66 when he died, and my mum was born in 66, and she actually had a visit from him.
What happened?
Well, from what I understand, because obviously I wasn't there, she was only young, probably about 10 or something, and she obviously never met him.
Right.
But she did say to my grandfather and grandma, you know, I've spoken to Grandad Joe, and they were like gobsmacked, thinking like, how the hell have you spoken to him? You never met him, you know?
Right.
But yeah, that's just one of the little stories I've got. I've got a couple of little ones.
Thanks, Andrew.
But my dad also, he was travelling up, do you know Little Thorpe roundabout?
Yeah.
Near Peterlee.
Yeah.
Well, he was going just under the flyover. He was driving with one of his friends who'd been a police officer, so you know, the sound of mind. And they saw a woman sprint across the road, like right in front of the car. So they rammed the brakes on, and she just disappeared. And they both got out to have a look. Couldn't find anything. Both just looked at each other and like, right, let's get out of here.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stories. Anything else?
Yeah, so also I've personally seen something myself which I couldn't explain when I was only young.
Right.
Down Whitby, because that's where my family's originally from.
Right.
We had a caravan down there, and we were staying overnight in the caravan, and I looked at the bottom of my bed, and there was a man standing there, fully black figure, like what you saw in that airplane video earlier.
Yes, just a blackness.
Yeah, just like a black silhouette.
Yeah.
So I knew it wasn't my dad, but it looked like my dad.
Right.
And I could hear him snoring in the room next door, so I knew it wasn't him, you know.
Right.
But yeah, I found out later on that actually my great-great-grandfather's buried a mile away.
Give over.
And he looked pretty much just like my dad, so, you know, that's
Who knows?
something strange.
That's good. Thank you for that, Andrew.
Got one more if you've got enough time.
Yes, please. Go for it.
Yeah, so my 3 times great-grandfather, and I sent you the newspaper clipping of this. I don't know if you've seen it, but he actually murdered his wife, then broke into a chemist and poisoned himself.
Wow, what a story.
And they found him lying in a field in Trimden, and they both got buried in an unmarked grave, because at the time, you know, you got buried in unmarked graves, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found that out on the Ancestry website.
It's because everybody seems to think, oh, I'm going to find out that I'm related to royalty, and most people that do it find out that their relatives have either been hanged, imprisoned, sent off to Australia or whatever. But hey, great stories all the same, Andrew. Thank you very much for coming on, and thanks for sharing that amazing story about your granddad as well. Tragic, but amazing. Thanks for calling in. Take care, mate. Bye-bye. So there you go, Andrew from Shields, Andrew from Peterlee, coming good for us. A lot of people have carried out the ritual. Thank you for giving it a try. Just hope that it works for you. We're going to have Alison from Anfield playing, and then after that, we're taking you to another place in the Northeast and another one of our grisly tales from Northumbria, from the new book, and another a tale of daring do that just didn't quite come off, but you'll find out in a second. First of all, let us have Alison from Anfield playing. Hello, Alison.
Hi there, Alan. How are you doing?
Hey, there she is. Hello, Alison. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Excellent. What's your story for us then, Alison?
Well, it was just to tell you a little bit more about I think I've been on before and told you a little bit about the little pink cottage we used to live in. We used to live in a 16th century pink cottage.
Wow.
And it was just absolutely amazing. And some of the things that you talk about, like the dark shadows, and actually we physically saw 3 people while we were there.
Wow.
Which was just absolutely amazing. But I sent Chris and Tony a clip, because we did this thing with and asking the orbs to cross across the screen.
Right.
And the whole clip's about an hour. I sent a minute in to kind of show you.
Yeah.
But it was so, like, when we used to go to bed on a night time, there was like 3 stairs to get upstairs.
Right.
And we'd be lying in bed on a night time, and they were all like catches on the doors. So it wasn't like it was proper old fashioned. The doors were all like tiny. I had to duck to get through them.
Do you mean those proper catches where you press the thing up and it literally lifts the thing up?
Like
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. Well, that was what the inside doors were. So we'd be lying in bed at night time, and it was a place where you put your hand here and you couldn't see a thing. There was no lights or anything.
Gotcha.
And you would hear like bang, bang to come up the stairs, and then click, the door would creak. It would open and be open for about 3 or 4 seconds every single time, and then it would close, shut, and you would hear click, click as it would go back down the stairs.
Wow.
But it was a bit like it wasn't scary at all. It was a bit like a Casper moment.
How did you rationalize it, though? Because you were just young, so presumably maybe he's open to it, but surely that would have been enough to scare you.
I've had loads of things happen over my life, so it's kind of like in the last house like my first house when my kids were young, we had a little boy that used to come running down the stairs, and I used to think it was my son when he was about 3 or 4 years old. I would say, "What are you up for?" Run up the stairs, and both the kids were sound asleep in bed.
Oh, right.
So I've had loads of things. So when things happen, it's not kind of like, it doesn't shock me.
Right.
But this cottage, I sent a picture in. You can have a look at the picture. Even to look at the cottage, it looks. It was beautiful, but it looks spooky.
Yeah.
And we've been there about 8 months when we found a priest hole.
Right.
Tucked behind one of the wardrobes.
Brilliant. Wow. That is an old house.
It was in the Doomsday Book. It was 16th century.
Jeepers. It's amazing.
So it was really, but we used to, like, the fun thing was, like, it always felt really cozy. Everybody that come to visit used to say, "Oh, isn't it like so, like, welcoming? It had a beautiful feel to it." But the first thing that we actually saw physically, there was an extension, which was the kitchen, because it was only 2 tiny little rooms,
right?
And it was an extension for the kitchen, and it was kind of like a shadow, but you could make out what it was actually people. And they were looking around the corner of the door, and it was an old gentleman and an old woman, but tiny, really like tiny. They must have only been about 4 foot.
Wow.
But it was always so like warm, and it was a really strange atmosphere.
Could you make out clothes on them?
Not really. It was more like a grey. The lady had some kind of hat on.
Right.
I always thought, like, every time we saw her, it was like a really dark, like, brown kind of material. Like, if you imagine like a Hessian type material.
Right. Yeah.
And you just saw like that kind of dress, but it came down like to the back of her neck.
Right.
So I'm not sure what that was.
Doesn't sound wealthy. Sounds of poorer ilk, if you know what I mean.
That's the impression that I kind of got every time we experienced something, that it was like, because that when we look back through like the records of what we could find,
yeah,
that was the farmer's cottage.
Right.
So there was a wealthy kind of landlord type thing who owned the land in Biddenham down in Bedford.
Right.
And that was the farmer's cottage. So we think it was like the farmer that lived there.
Because a Hessian-like material is, if you take it, it is a guess, but sackcloth is very, very similar to Hessian, and that's what a lot of, certainly the poorer people, whether they were farmers or farmers' wives, that's the kind of stuff they'd be wearing from that far back. I mean, we're not talking just Victorian times. You are taking it back to the beginnings of that cottage. If you're saying 1600s, that's what they would have worn.
Yeah, and the little girl that was there was a little. We often saw a little, and it was just a little shadow, and it was really weird because it was just a little shadow,
Right.
But you kind of knew it was a little girl. It was really bizarre.
You felt it was a little girl.
I felt it was a little girl, yeah.
Right. Right.
And we used to have like Rob's kids over to stay, and like what this shadow that we would see about was the one who would move the toys about. And there was one night we were sitting, and we'd had Lego because the kids had been there.
Yeah.
And some Lego just moved across the floor. And it was just in front of us, everything. And there was one night, do you know the little you have the things that for the fire? We would say, just we would say things, and whatever was there would do things.
Are you talking about like the little metal brush and shovel?
Yeah, like brush and shovel
things. Yeah.
So we would say things like, we were like most haunted. We would have nights where we used to sit and talk to these people.
Rattle me clanger. I can picture you.
So we would say, like, move that one, and it would start swinging, and then we would say, stop it, and it would stop.
Brilliant.
And it's like, and we've got these things on video. I've been trying to search through to find them, because this was back in 2011 that we lived in there.
Right.
And it's just, we've got so much on video. But you were talking about things going through walls.
Yes.
The corner where the extension was, there was a few times where Rob would have been out having a cigarette outside, and across the field, and it was always a woman that he saw. I never saw this. He saw it several times. She would walk and basically walk through the wall where the extension was, and just straight through.
Wow.
And it was so like vivid. It wasn't like just the odd thing that was happening. This was on a daily basis.
Brilliant.
And
you're so lucky though, because so many people want to see anything. They just want to know. They want to believe maybe, but they've never seen anything. You've had it in spades, mate.
We lived there for a year. We rented the cottage for a year.
Right.
And the only reason we moved out was because we got infested with mice, and there was no way to keep them out, because it was listed so that you couldn't
fix it up.
And because it was just rented, I was like, I've had enough. But I literally cried when we left, because it was like having another family there. I sound crazy when I say it, but it was like having another family, and we were so sad to leave.
I get that. And you see, the thing that I wonder, and again, this is something, because you had direct contact, and I mean, direct contact is, forget seances, because I've never really trusted a seance, I have to be honest. Intervention, move that, it moved. That means that entity, whatever he or she was listening to you, and therefore conscious enough to feel and do what you asked, which makes me wonder, when you left and felt really sad, did they?
Personally, I would say yes. We even had a conversation where, like, this honestly, people watching is going to be thinking she's crazy. We had a conversation when we left saying we're really sorry that we're going, and we hope that the next person that comes to live here respects and honors your space as much as we have.
Sweet.
And it was just, we left, and it was just an overwhelming sadness, and it was like, it did feel like we were sharing it with them, and they were so respectful of us, and we were so respectful of them.
That's probably the secret as to why it worked, though, Alison. Because a lot of people, you'll have heard on Night Owls over the years, something went bang in the kitchen, I've got to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Well, live alongside it.
Yeah.
Respect it, it respects you. And I've even had people saying, there was something in the room watching me undress. Blimey. Maybe there was, but it's not exactly going to stop you or hold your knickers on the ground when you're trying to pull them up. You know, but you showed absolute respect, and you got it back, and that's fabulous. Yeah, you're
It
so,
was.
so very lucky. It's funny when you mentioned the thing about going through a wall. Over the years, I've been trying to practice something. You know, we've had people talking about these black shapes that move, and you said you saw one, but you knew it was a girl, and I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Because I was learning, because if something happens kind of over here, I can still see it, even though I'm looking directly at you. And how many fingers are you holding? You can even do that with the cones at the side of your eyes. And the cones pick up these black things better than full beam.
Yeah.
So if you switch around and try and see it, you lose it at once. So I've been trying to learn how to follow these things by peripheral vision, if you know what I mean. And I was once in a place, and this is in the Northeast, it's in Bedlington, where this woman said, I've got this thing in the house. And I went to see her and saw it at once out the corner of my eye. And I thought, going to follow it. And I followed it upstairs. And I followed it along. The problem with peripheral vision is you fall over any item of furniture that happens to be on the floor because you're concentrating on this other thing. And it went through a wall. And you know one of those houses where the ceiling comes down at the side, like a bedroom under the eaves? And I went straight into the wall, and I had a black eye for 4 weeks with this thing. And like you knew it was a little girl, I knew whatever it was had done it on purpose.
Yeah.
And not to be vicious.
To play.
Just to be a pixie. Absolutely. Bizarre. Hey, but lovely catching up with you, Alison. Nice to see you too. Thanks for coming on. All the best.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Glad you're enjoying it. Right, let's go out on another visit. This time, and a bit later, we went to Seg Hill. It's freezing, but it should be on a lovely dark night like this. Why am I here? Where the hell am I? I'm in Seg Hill. Now, Seg Hill, not far from Cramlington, just up down from Morpeth. If you've ever been before, you've probably driven straight through it heading somewhere else. Most people do. However, there used to be a huge tower here, a huge peel tower. And the thing about peel towers, if you got up the top of one, you could always see another peel tower over the tree line. What were they for? Well, it was so if a band of renegades, if a foreign army, if the Scots were coming down to steal everything you had, if the Vikings were landing, you rang that bell, you peeled that bell. That's why it was a peel tower. You peeled the bell and everybody got hold of their stuff, headed into the woods, hid in caves, hid in forests, made sure they were as far away as they possibly could be. However, here in Seg Hill, what a great story. There was a guy who used to be in the army and he got wounded in the leg and he used to have to drag his foot along. So he couldn't fight anymore. So instead of fighting, they said, we've got the job for you. You're going to be in charge of the peel tower. All you have to do every day, and he got paid for it, was to climb up the peel tower, round and round and round and round to the very top. Now, the peel tower had various floors, and in the very bottom, they kept salt collected from the sea because salt was a really, really expensive commodity. So you kept it in your most secure place, which was locked firmly behind the huge wooden door of the peel tower. Then you went up, and that's where his billet was, where his little bed, where he slept in the warm. And then you climbed right the way up to the very top where the bell was. You also would occasionally light fires there to warn people. And that was his daytime job, morning, noon and night. He was up the peel tower and he did a really good job. And one day he spotted from the distance a huge gaggle of vagabonds heading towards them, obviously intent on taking everything that the small village of Seg Hill had. So he rang the bell, everybody beetled off. He himself went downstairs, locked the big door to make sure that nobody could get in. And back then, the door was said to be 3 foot of wood thick, which is massive. People had tried to burn it open without success, because while they're trying to do that, the guys at the top of the peel tower chucking boiling hot water at them, boiling hot pitch, huge rocks that he spent all day when there was nothing happening, carrying up the damn stairs. But they came in handy. They tried to get in without success. This guy, brave as hell, waited till they all had had a few and was completely sozzled on the drink they'd stolen from Seg Hill. And they were all lying around in tents and on the floor, and they'd taken the cottages of the villagers of Seg Hill, and they were in their beds, literally sleeping it off after a big night of drink. So he decided he was going to quietly open the door, sneak out, and go into the first hut and cut the throats of the invaders. And he was successful with the first one. So he crept to the next 3 or 4 of them lying on the floor beside a campfire, one by one, slitting their throats, putting his foot on their neck so they didn't cry out, making sure they'd stop twitching before he let go. Then he went into the next hut, dispatched them. And then, when he thought he'd pretty much killed all of the people that he could see, he thought, right, I'm going to sneak back in. And he got back, looking around. Dog started barking. His heart was thumping. He runs back to the door, slams the door behind him, puts the big lock in place. He's done it. He's a hero. Even despite his bad leg, he's the hero of the day. However, what he didn't know is a couple of the invaders had seen him get up, and they'd snuck into the peel tower, and they were waiting there for him. They captured him, and because they were Viking, they had a way of, well, dispatching, particularly the religious people. The Vikings hated the Christian preachers because they knew they were hypocrites, because they were living in splendor, while their slaves had absolutely nothing and were beaten and badly treated. So they hated the priests, and they had a way of dealing with them. They would peel the skin off their fingers, then up their arms, then across their chest and torso, then their whole body, their penis, their backside, their legs. They would peel the skin down to the very last toe. And then, still alive, with the entire body peeled, except for the head, then they would start to peel the face, take all the skin off the face, take the skin from underneath the nose, peel it so that the nose was open to the elements, peel the skin off the eyelids so you couldn't shut his eye. They took the skin off his brow right the way across the top of his head. And he was still alive, and he was still screaming atrocities at these people for what he was having to endure. So what they did was they moved the trap door from where he was living in his billet, and they threw him down into the salt, where I would imagine in a split second of absolute agony, he would die of toxic shock. And he is said to walk around Seg Hill, but particularly the Blake's Arms Hotel, which is just along the road from here. In the cellar, the original base where the salt was of Seg Hill Tower still exists. The pub use it to keep their barrels. We'll try and stick a photograph of that on there so you can have a look at it. Amazing story right here in Seg Hill. And you caught me having a cup of tea as well. So there you go. It's all good. Salt Skin of Seg Hill. As I say, one of our Grizzly tales from Northumbria. The book is out now if you should fancy it. Now, we're going to talk to Ian from Waka. Hello, Ian.
Hello there, Alan.
Hey, there he is. Hello, mate. How you doing?
You all right? Aye, not bad. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Top man, thank you. What's your story then? What you got?
A couple of experiences I've had at the Castle Keep.
Right.
So about 16 years ago, I went to visit with my mum.
Right.
Absolutely fine. Daytime visit. Paid. Went in, we got the chapel area, and we just felt this really heavy, depressing feeling. We come to leave, we go back in the corridor, and then we just heard this almighty bang. Went back to check it out, and there was nothing there.
Right.
A couple of months later, we watched Most Haunted, and Yvette Fielding's husband he had a very similar experience in the chapel. It was just very strange.
Right. So was that the very first time that you'd experienced anything spooky then?
No. I've been to open circles when I was younger as well with my mum.
Right.
But that was the
Spiritualist
first
church,
time.
that is, though. That's the
Spiritualist church. Yeah.
Have you seen people getting a message that you feel could not have been anything other than real?
Yeah, there was one time in Blackpool. Obviously, I was about 14 at the time. And I got this really heavy feeling, like just my whole left side was numb, pins and needles. And I didn't know what it was, and I was too scared to get up and ask. And at the end of it, the woman come over and she touched my shoulder, and the feeling just left. And she went, "You did have a message to give, and I've taken it from you, and I'll pass it on."
Wow, so it wasn't a message for you then?
No, it wasn't for me. It was for somebody else in the church that night.
Wow, my goodness. So,
Yeah.
I mean, with your mum being a spiritualist, I presume, does that not make you automatically have to believe right from a young age?
I always look for other answers. Even when I go hunting, I've been hunting at my uncle's, we'll always look for other answers of what it could be.
Right.
Any strange noises, we'll go hunting. I've had a stays at Chilham Castle, and I've never experienced anything there.
No? Right.
No. We stayed in the Grey Lady room, and we've had experiences of knocking on the window, and I've just put it down to the wind, being
Right.
old windows.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, good
Then
stuff.
My second experience at the Castle Keep, this is going back about 10 years now.
Right.
We're walking up Dogleap Stairs, me and a friend. We'd been venturing around town during the night, as we did when we were younger, looking for people dropping money. Walking up Dogleap Stairs, and as we got to the top, the only thing I can explain it is like a rush of wind, like a force, but it didn't just hit where it went through our chests.
Whoa, right.
And we sort of lost balance, got our balance, and we just legged it down the stairs. And as we got to the bottom, we both looked at each other, and I didn't know he'd experienced it, and we both said at the same time, "What was that?"
You do know the story of the Dogleap Stairs, I presume?
No.
Give over? It's one of our grisly tales. True story. And you know that overwhelming gust of wind thing?
Yeah.
I can maybe explain it. I'm not going to go into the full story, but it's documented in the book that we put together. There was a lady who lived on the quayside in a house that's still there. It's the one that's right on the front with the Tudor, the white walls and the wooden carvings. It's called the Red House in Newcastle.
Right.
There's a plaque under a particular window telling you the story of a woman called Bessie Surtees. She used to live there with her dad, very rich man. He tried to marry her off to lots of other rich men's sons because you wanted a dowry, because back in those days, that's what you did.
Yeah.
But she ended up falling in love with a poor man and decided she was going to elope. So one night, this guy on his horse rides along the quayside, remembering the quayside, even up to the 60s, was cobbled, so horses could ride on it. So the horse came to the window. He stood on the back of his horse on the saddle, helped her down from the window where the plaque is. If you want to have a walk down there, you'll see it. Got her on the back of the horse. Just then, the father opened the door to her bedroom, hearing something going on. It's him. You're not marrying him, not my daughter. So he raced down into the servants' quarters at the back of the house and released the dogs. By which time, the boyfriend, with her on the back of the horse, ran up from the quayside, up what is now Dean Street, to the, where Dean Street is. Opposite the road is where the Dogleap Stairs are.
Yeah.
And he rode the horse with Bessie Surtees on his back up the staircase with the dogs chasing the horse. Hence, dog leap stairs. That's where it gets its name from. The guy got to the top of the stairs. The dogs fell because it's very steep. And a lot of people on the stairs say that because they've had similar experiences of almost feeling like they're being pushed by the wind because the wind's so strong. And they say it's the gust of air you get when you're close to a horse as it passes you at speed.
Right.
So whether or not that's what you experience or not, only you really know. But I can also tell you, the man she married ended up becoming rich and a huge success. And I believe, if memory serves, and I must admit it is in here, I think he became Lord Mayor of Newcastle. So, but these are, so you think, well, that's just an old story. It actually happened. And Bessie's ghost can be seen at the window above the plaque. And loads of people have seen her in old-fashioned garb, just looking, watching out the window. And people say she's watching for a man to come so that she can elope. So, bonus story that might explain something that you experienced back in the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Aye, thanks for that, Ollie.
You're welcome. Anything else, mate?
No, that's all, thanks.
Good, man. Great to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Right, champion.
Take it
See
easy.
ya.
Bye-bye. How nice is that? Strange but true. And didn't have to look it up, but if you want me to, I will. Right. Crook Hall. Right. Here we go. Tony's just reminding me that we've got some more, a couple of little bits. The first bit is something that I will say has to be a ghost. I've talked to a lot of people about who are absolutely hands-on electronic technical wizards, and they say what you are about to see is impossible. Now, I was at Crook Hall in Durham. It's by the river, not far from the city centre of Durham. Just before we put two people into the hall, and then we pull out because we don't want to be anywhere around, so because we don't want to make noises or anything. We want them to have a genuine experience. We put two people into Crook Hall, and they had an amazing experience. However, just before the show begins, usually about 9:45, I'll give my wife Jennifer a call. Say, how you doing? Are you all right? In this particular case, things were going to get started a bit too quick for me to give her a call. So I stood outside Crook Hall and I started to send her a text. As soon as I pressed the text, to bring the text screen up, and of course, all of the alphabet appears at the base of your screen, as you know. Someone started texting on my phone. Now, this is it. And you can see, yes, we've wiped out the phone number, so you cannot ring her. However, look, you'll see fingers touching letters. There's no fingers on it, but you can see invisible fingers touching different words. I'm holding the telephone by my fingers so you can know that it's nothing to do with me. You see the letters being typed? And then sending them. Typed, send, type, send, type, send, over and over and over. And the people that I was with, belonging to Crook Hall, are seeing this and saying, what the? You can still see the letters being touched. And then I put my hand towards it to show that for me to light up the letters, I have to touch it. And sometimes it would just hold a letter down. And the way that I viewed that was, if you were from a time before telephones and you saw somebody with a gadget like that, you would probably just touch stuff and then you'd see stuff appear on the screen. You might not even be able to read, let alone write. But how cool is that? And also, if you've ever wondered what it's like to be a non-believer, to be a total skeptic, like the guy you're about to hear, a gentleman by the name of Ryan, we put into Crook Hall. He didn't believe in ghosts he said it was all malarkey, didn't believe it. If you ever wondered what it's like when you realize you're wrong, this is his bit, and it's on camera. Enjoy.
Let's get in. Just heard a noise. Just heard a noise.
Well, I've heard more noises in here.
Hang on.
Jesus.
What's happened?
I've heard more noise in here. It seemed like as I got into this room here, that's always been pitch black, but all over there, you could see the outline of the door before, and then all of a sudden you couldn't see the outline of the door. It was just black, and then it just sounded like someone was walking up to it, like trying to handle, and then a big bang. I almost shit myself. And then I heard as if someone was flinging stones off that window over there.
Inside or
inside? Inside. It sounded like it there. I could, when I first come in, you could see the outline of the door perfect, and as I was looking around, that corner stayed black. That there, it looked like as if something was in the doorway.
Take the light out a second, Tony. I know you're filming, but if the light's off,
like if you can see a little doorway.
You can see a tiny little bit of ambient light.
Yes, and when I turned back around, you couldn't see it, and then that's when it sounded like someone's brain on the door.
That door there?
That door, as if there was a door there, someone's brain on a wooden door, so it was like, and the handle's been getting played with. I mean, we've got to pick this up on this mic because it was that loud. I mean, I was jumped out my skin at one point.
Now, you heard us walk through there.
Yes, I did.
If anybody walked through there, you'd have heard
Yes, you would have. That's why I shouted Tony, because I thought it was him, but it clearly wasn't. And as their noises were done, you couldn't see that doorway. You couldn't see it. It was filled black.
But all the noises were actually
in this room. There was a noise at that window there. I heard it knock. It sounded like someone had thrown a stone from the inside against the window, and everything was coming from that doorway there.
Is that where the big noise came from?
The big noise came from there. The first big noise I got sounded like it come from that bit of the roof there. And then after that, every bit of the activity was all there. When that shadow would come, it felt like I'd been cornered. Like, you know, because I wanted to go towards it, but every time I was getting encouraged to do so, there was another noise happening. I felt like I was cornered. I have to admit, I've never felt that like that ever before in my life, especially in a room by myself.
Now, hang on. You don't believe in any of this?
I know, that's exactly what I'm saying. I think I will be moving on apology. But no,
you're all right.
I'm fine. I'm buzzing off it as well. You know, I felt like my heart was going to break out my chest, but in a good way. It was like, because I've been wanting something like this to happen, and their noises, because it wasn't like there was a build-up, it was just bang. It was like, oh. And then when you turn on, you just look, there was no figure. It was just darkness. You couldn't see that. You couldn't see
if
the
there was a darkness covering that door, how big would it have to be?
Oh, that door must be about 7 foot or something.
Yeah.
Easy. And I mean, as you see, the first thing you can do when you come to a room when it's dark, I mean, like you see, I can see that perfectly all along. Then when I heard that noise.
And that was it. I'm buzzing off it. I didn't believe, now I do, and I'm buzzing off it because you suddenly realize there's more out there than we'll ever truly know. So we have David and Andrea. We tried to get them before from South Shields. We think we've got them now. Fingers crossed. Hello, guys. Hello, David and Andrea. David and Andrea, is that you?
So we have David and Andrea.
Sneaky suspicion. I think they're listening on a. Hello, what's your story for us?
Hi, Alan.
Hello there.
Can you hear us, Alan?
I can. I'm also hearing me echo in the background, but if you can hear me clearly, what's your story, David?
I just want to tell you a story from quite a few years ago, Alan. We moved in this house.
Yeah, can you turn down the stream, guys? If you turn down the stream and listen on your phone, that'll
Turn down now. Can you hear now?
Yes, I can. Clear as day. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Alan. This is a story from quite a few years ago. We lived in this house in South Shields, right?
Right.
We had just moved in. It's a strange story because it's not ghosts. It's unusual. It's an unusual story. Okay.
Okay. Okay. It is unusual because they've disappeared again, which is a nightmare. So we have one more thing to give you tonight. We're going to dive into that now. And if there is one last late caller, we'll have him. If not, I'm going to go straight into that right now. And thanks for trying to get through. We've had half a dozen people that have not quite managed to get on. For those of you that have, it's been fabulous. Thank you. Now, yes, it would help an awful lot if this is of any use to you. Grizzly Tales of... Oh, there you go. There's an even bigger one. And it blocks my face, so it is doubly handy. Grizzly Tales from Northumbria. The Bessie Surtees tale is in there, and many. There's about 150, 160 stories in there, including the whole Chillingham thing that's never really been told before. Never ever put Chillingham in any book. It was kind of like too special, but we've stuck it in this one so you can get to the rock bottom of it. So we've looked at some of the stories from Grizzly Tales of Northumbria, Northern Heritage, the publisher. We thank them kindly for allowing us to do it. However, we wanted to do a brand new story from a brand new place that we'd not been before. Now, we had visited the mental hospital. It was once not even called a mental hospital. It was called a lunatic asylum back in the early days. And it was also a typhoid hospital. It was also for the wounded of World War I. And it was used for a lot of different things. But an asylum back in the day. And I'll tell you the full story from the insanity cursed wood. Enjoy.
Like I'm glued to the spot. Helen, can we not find... Just heard a little click from up above. I don't know what that was. No! Someone grab my leg! Someone grab my leg!
Welcome to a cursed forest. What else could we want on a night like this? And this is a cursed forest. I was set up to do this by a guy who, while I was jogging, pulled his car over and said, "Do you know I see ghosts in my house all the time since I moved here? Because there used to be a mental institution on the same site." And I thought, I'll look into it. Then you find out that an awful lot of people died because going back in time, if you wanted to get rid of somebody from your family, you put them in an asylum. You bribed a doctor, gave them some money. If you bribed two of them, that person would be placed in a sanatorium, a place where there was some seriously disturbed individuals and an awful lot of people who were completely healthy. But there, listen. Just heard a voice. Oh, wow. Anyway, come with me. I'll take you on a bit of a trip and tell you what happened to one guy called Michael Hope. Hang on a second. I've just got to grab a torch off Hollywood McShane and then I'll be set. Thank you. Just, you've got to be careful because it's claggy ground at the present time. We're walking through the woods. Let me tell you the story of it. It's a guy called Michael Hope. And this young lad was an orphan, lost his mother and father very, very young, was a waif on the streets of Alnwick. And one day, a guy called William Coxon came around and said to the young lad, "Come with me and I'll get you into my business." You've got to be real careful. It's very wet underfoot.
He says, I'll give you a job in my factory. Well, his factory was more of like a merchant's company where you were buying and selling things. And his daughter and his wife hated the business just like the money that it made. So this young lad took it on. This was his opportunity to break out of being a waif on the streets, and he grabbed it with both hands like you would. And he started really improving the business. He learned the business from the bottom right the way to the top. Within 6 years, William Coxon wanted the young lad, Michael Hope, to be his son. Well, you can imagine the sister went berserk. She wasn't going to have any of that, because if he was the son and heir, son taking over the company, where would that leave her? Where would she get her fine dresses and crinolines from? Where would she get the money to have journeys down to London to go to her favourite clubs and see her favourite entertainers? So she began, even then, trying to find a way to stop him. Well, what eventually happened is William Coxon was starting to feel ill, handed over control of the business to Michael Hope, who was now called Michael Hope Coxon. Oh, the sister was demented and bereft at the whole thing. But the mother, Constance Coxon, she loved the boy because he was working hard while the rest of the family were just taking money from them. Constance, who loved the boy, was found dead. Now, some say she died in her sleep, others say that she was helped with a pillow, but nothing could be proven. She's buried next to the Corner House Hotel up in Jesmond. You know, the big cemetery you get to just before you come up the hill? So, one less person to give money to if William Coxon ever died, but Michael Hope Coxon was in the way. So, in this cursed wood, why are we here? Because Michael's here. How did that happen? Well, at the end of this forest was the building that was the sanatorium. Once Constance had died, Beth, Michael Hope Coxon's stepsister, decided to start playing a few games. She would say to Michael, "Why did you let your horse out last night?" And Michael Hope said, "I didn't leave my horse out last night." But then when he gets up in the morning, the horse was loose. And another member of staff that Beth had bribed said, "You came down and you let your horse loose. Why did you do that, sir?" He thought he was going mad. And every day something would happen along those lines. Something like, he's going to have his meal and there's sugar on it instead of salt. And he'd say, "Well, who's put sugar on this?" And Beth would say, "I've just seen you do it." He began to question his own mental acuity until a doctor arrived and gave him a once-over and said, "Oh, you're suffering from some kind of mental condition." And he's saying, "No, I'm not. The business is doing well. I'm making fortunes for people. Everything's really good." And then a second doctor came, examined him, and said, no, you're suffering from a brain disorder. I'm afraid we're going to have to put you into a sanatorium. And he says, "Well, you can't do that. I've got this multi-million," and I mean multi-million back then is a multi-million business today. He was making a fortune. He says, "No, my workers, they depend on me to make the right decisions." And the doctor says, "But you're not making the right decisions. You're putting sugar on your food. You're releasing your horse at night just to cause problems for everybody. You've got a problem you need sorting out." And eventually, he began to question himself. One night he went to bed. When he woke up, he was soaking because Beth had come in the night and just poured bottles of liquor across the bed. And he wakes up and he didn't even drink. And he says, "How did this happen?" And then the staff, well paid, said, "Well, we saw you do it. You were just pouring out all of this." He didn't get it. However, had he been a little bit more, have a bit more nous about the class system, he would know that rich people had been having elderly relatives put into asylums for years so that they could get the money early. But he had no clue of that. He went into the asylum with some people that were disturbed, some people that were criminally insane. He was attacked on numerous occasions. He lost an eye when one man in the middle of the night got a wooden peg and plunged it into his face, trying to kill him. So things were not going well. And after about 5 or 6 months, he was begging them to let him out, saying, my mental state is fine. I've got no problems. Let me out. But by then, Beth had also greased a palm or two at the asylum, and they were going to keep him in. There was no way he was going to get out. So 6 years, 9 months later, he sees an open door in the asylum. He's wearing a white robe and he legs it. He gets out. He's suddenly in these woods. It's late at night and he would see something very similar to what you guys can see of the woods around here. He's fallen over trees. He's looking for something to eat. He's plucking berries from bushes. He's running. He'll come to gates. You see the gates. You've got to find a way to get through, and he'd work it out because it's actually not complicated. In this case, there's a gap in the fence, but back then he would have come through here and then back out the other side. Whoa. He would run along this track here, not fenced at the time, wilderness in all directions. He would pile up and down here, trying to look for somewhere where he could get a bed for the night. Any kind of place he could. He was desperate to try and get away from that place, never to go back in there again. So once he was actually out here, what he decided to do was to literally find himself a hole. And in this scrubland, in this wasteland here, he went in about 50 to 60 feet, remembering that there were no houses in this part of the area. The mental institution was standing way out on his own. And he went 50 or 60 yards into this scrubland. And he found himself a hole. It wasn't even a cave. It was just a hole in the ground. And he turned it into his home. In the middle of this darkness, where even to this day you can see dark shadows moving around when you... Oh! I can hear voices too. Listen. I heard a cough. Do you hear a cough? There's a voice. Listen. 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 You just mentioned that this is where his home was. He propped it up with like logs and leaves and branches of ferns like this. Nobody knows how long he lived there, but it must have been for some time, because they didn't find Michael Hope for almost 7 years. And then one day, a woodsman was going out collecting some wood, ironically for the institution, and they found a dead body lying in a badger set, just 2 legs poking out of the end. Listen. I'm hearing voices again. I hope you're picking this up at home. You see shadow, darkness just moving, fleeting. I hope you're getting some of it at home. Look out. It's just starting to rain a little bit. We're not going to let that stop us. But this is where Michael Hope Coxon as he was, lost his life. Voice in the background. Say lost his life, and I just heard somebody go, "Oh!" There's nobody around here. Not in the wet. Not on a night as late as this, and it is late. And this is where he died. And because he died here, people have been seeing a figure in white moving around behind trees. If not the white robed figure, quite often they see darkness, just moving darkness. I don't know about you, but there's a bit of darkness moving here. Shoot. Under your feet, of course, there's huge pieces of wood. Ow. Is there anybody here? Speak to me. Speak to me. The birds seem to have backed off into the distance. But there is a darkness here and a real chill. I know it's a cold night anyway, but there's an iciness to the breeze here. The trees are starting to... Oh, listen. What the hell is that? I've just seen something. Do you know there's something very, very special about being in a place like this at this time of night, where there's... Yes, there's going to be wild things there. If we frightened a rabbit or something, you'd know it's a rabbit. But there's a bigger darkness that just seems to move, and it's here. I'm feeling it. I haven't seen too much. I've seen a few dark things moving about, but man size, I would love to see that white gown of. If it is you, Michael, I'd love to see your white gown somewhere. Hello? Hello? Oof. Oh, through there. Oh, my goodness. Just seen something through there. Right at the very back. Oh. It was almost like somebody... You know, when if you hold on to a wall and you try and look around the corner. Oh, flying things too. Attracted to the light and little strands of gossamer web hanging between the trees. I've already had to knock a huge spider off the top of my hat. I was getting a free ride. Michael, come on. We want to find you, Michael. Where are you? Where are you, Michael? Come on, Michael. Where are you? I am hearing voices still. Somebody's moving over here. Listen. Can you hear footsteps? Wow. What a place. What a place. Can you imagine, though, being a young boy who's made his fortune and become a multi-millionaire with stately homes and mansions and money and travel after having nothing? Wow, what a trip. But then to be forced to live out here, eating berries, blackberries, plants. This became his new home. And it was hellish. Let's face it, the Northeast at its best is not a warm part of the world. And out here at the time, it was freezing and bitter. Hello? 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 Oh, you just want a hello back, don't you? Hello? Speak to me. Michael. 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 Just through the trees, I don't know whether you can see, there's a tiny little moon there peeping through the clouds as I get nettled to pieces. Let's watch. You got to watch your step because there's huge branches around and trees to duke under. I just wish we would get some kind of something from somewhere. There you go. Now, something was. Ow. I heard footsteps over here. I don't know whether we caught any of that, but you asked for something and something was delivered. Brilliant. If that was you, Michael, thank you. Could you do that again? Oh, that was me. Can you do that again? At night time, these trees are frightening down things, aren't they? Spooky. When you're out here mob-handed, there's Hollywood and I here tonight, and he's got the big torch, and I've got this little sucker. But I asked Michael, could you do something else for us? Could you share something else with us, Michael? You're playing hard to get. There's stuff falling, but it could just be like a bird or a demented squirrel that we're keeping awake. Noise behind me, but I think that's just Hollywood stumbling his way through it. Whoa. Well, I'm going to spend a little bit more time here myself, but I think we've done as much as we can tonight. At a time when I would have loved to have taken each and every one of you on a ghost. Just hearing that. Listen. We're getting noises. I would have loved to have taken each and every one of you. We did have planned a night owl ghost hunt, a ghost tour on the bus, and that was not to be. I would have loved you guys to have been here just to spend some time, and I would have put you in different positions, and you would have experienced whatever you would have experienced, because there's nothing quite like a night owl's ghost hunt, ghost night, whatever the hell this has been. At a time when we're not allowed to do very much, we've done what we could for you. We hope you've enjoyed it. And that's it from the Night Owls tonight, pretty much. Until we're together again, from me, Alan Robson, good night. God bless you. And I wish you well. So what's happened since? In 1899, a teacher from Alnwick was found in these woods, driven mad by the restless spirits of those that died at the sanatorium. In 1924, 2 teenagers were found with broken legs. They say they were forced by a madman in a white gown to climb a tree. When they were up the tree, they were forced to jump down, breaking both their legs. They were found writhing on the ground. And when they saw the man staring at them and grinning, he turned into smoke. Christmas Eve, 1993, Rachel Hall from Morpeth was jogging through these woods. Someone grabbed her ankle. Just heard a noise to my left-hand side. Wonder what the hell that was, or who the hell that was. Because there, you see the dark shadows moving. Oh, this is exactly the place where people have seen all kinds of apparitions, including one particular white apparition that moves around the woods in between the trees. Christmas Eve, 1993, she was jogging and she felt someone grab her ankle. At first, she thought maybe it was a tree root or something, but when she looked down at her leg, there was a human handprint, and a big one at that. And in 2019, Grace Connors from Bedlington, she was walking her little dog. She saw a man in a dirty white gown staring at her. She ran away, knowing that she was the only person in the woods at that time that she could see. She started running and running and running, and she scraped her face on thorn bushes as she ran past them. Eventually, she looked back to see that this man was literally a few paces behind her. And just as he was about to reach her, she screamed. The dog went crazy, and the man disappeared right here in this wood, known as the Cursed Wood ever since.